welcomes one and all to tonight's episode of Skeptic and Ranting. Isaac, from Orthodox to Secularism, where we have Isaac on with us to share his story, experiences, and expertise. And I want to thank you all as we get ready to Skeptic and Rant. What is up, everyone? I do want to thank you, of course, for joining us on the intertubes. If you enjoy the show, please don't forget to share it with your family, friend, more specifically the person you are at a debate with, and follow on Twitch, almost at 100, 2 away, and subscribe on YouTube. Because when you hit that subscribe button, you get access to that bell icon, which when hit to all, will send you reminders to see our premieres or join our live streams like this one. What is up, everyone? Hello, hello. Woohoo! What is up, Khaleesi? What is up, Big Bad Mama? What is up, Davegar and Sinister Porpoise? Aw, well, Athena, she kind of deserves all the milk in the world, in fairness. And sending love to everyone. We'll keep on saying hello to you as people join. And we will also read or interact with your comment if you tag us at James W. or at Amy Newman. We will also read out loud and show on screen your super chats. If you send all of that love in, we will send that love and support right back to you. We are a skeptic channel, including the 3 schmucks you see hosting tonight. However, after our housekeeping, our interview, and all of the shenanigans that we have in store for you, we then will be opening up the floodgates, or rather the open mic, so you can say what your thoughts are about all of the, well, we normally say wisdom with a tad of sarcasm. I think we can say wisdom tonight, because we do want to welcome Isaac on board with us tonight as we are talking the Skeptic and Ranting from Orthodox to Secularism. We're going to do just a verbal fast shout out, and then we're going to hand it over to him to really say everything that he wants, and then James and I are going to we're going to let him. So, just want to send out a few more love out there onto the interwebs. You can support the show by not only sending in super chats and super thanks on premiered episodes, you can also join our channel members with our evolving badge system, which kind of just triggers young earth creationists. Apparently we worship time and the badges just evolve, as well as the best way to support us and get some unique perks at patreon.com/Amy. She keeps on jumping, as well as getting high quality catnip, and as well as sending out all of that love, like Senator Cato reminding us of the separation of church and state is amazing. Rachel Holen reminding us.
Thanks, Cato. Thanks, Rachel.
Probably shouldn't take, slaves from the nations around you unless you're wearing pink fuzzy cuffs. Sending love to James Wolfe. Amazing. We kind of do late night streams. And so we howl at the moon. And sending love to Dale Pastel. Sending love to Dale because we look for empirical evidence on this channel. And Chris Disciple because we have skeptic
Thanks, Rick.
theists, we have skeptic, whether it's Jewish, Christian, or Muslim, and then the last three, the commanders of the girl deck. We are sending love to Rejos, reminding us that we have a skeptic Bible study. We just did the skeptic Bible study last night, our 80th episode, which is kind of crazy. We're knee deep in Joshua, but who isn't? And sending love, and then sending love to Matt Deig, reminding us that we have theories in science, not hypotheses, which are you have educated guesses in science, but you work them into testable theories. Going to cough. Oh, sorry. Sending love. Last but not least. That was Bahamut in me, James. Bahamut keeps on trying to get out.
Well, let's see him. We haven't seen
I know.
Bahamut in a while.
Keeps on. I should just let him out. He's been a good boy. He's always been a good boy.
Because so cute. How could you fear that?
How could you do anything but fear him? And sending love, last but not least, see you, Davenport. Reminding us that watchmaker arguments are kind of really silly because we are naturally forming. Don't know what to tell you.
Mr. Amy and the Bahamut with a penis.
Oh my. And the LGBTQ just also triggers the fundies on a very
Little
primal level. It's hard to get their minds off my junk, as lovely as I want to share them with everyone.
Well, I mean, to be fair, a lot of people seem to have that issue. So.
Listen, it happens sometimes, including, I was going to say Yahweh. I don't know if Yahweh has a hard time. He had different problem. We normally...
Davegar.
Similar.
I said no more Davegar.
No more I will give so much. I'll explain later. Sending love,
Yeah.
Davegar. I think we updated from the 5 to 10 because we just said it was getting to the point where we had hour long. But I just want to keep on sending you love out, Davegar. So if you want, I will keep on sending you love because you are worth it.
You definitely love you,
are
Davegar.
amazing because you also remind us that, well, and what a better time. I guess we really do have to focus on that thick flat earth. Or thick round earth. That thick round earth, because the flat earthers, well, they are not multiplying, but they're loud. That is their, like, a big thing.
Just imagine Nathan Thompson shouting into the schoolyard, telling the kids the earth is flat. And then
the weirdest
school
thing
staff
about Nathan Thompson
reviled.
is that he sits there and he's just like, I'm banned from like 800 schools.
Yeah.
Weird flex, but okay. But
Just imagine that, getting arrested for disturbing a school, and even the kids are telling you you're an idiot. No, the world is not flat.
yeah, it is kind of like this weird thing if you could be beat by anyone in middle school. Once again, I understand, like, I could be beat by a middle schooler in a spelling bee, but if you're talking about, like, science, I feel like we're failing as an educational system.
Are flat earthers smarter than any third grader? No.
But sending so much love. We are sending love to Davegar. Boom, 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 boom. We're sending love to everyone out there, all of our Patreons, our channel members, Twitch subscribers, everyone on the girl deck, which is 2 out of 3 become lieutenant of the girl deck. And okay, there's only so much shilling that we can squeeze out of this. At a certain point, we got to hand it over to the lovely Isaac that we have with us. We are glad to have you here, Isaac. We are talking from Orthodox to secularism, but really, there's a whole swath of just subjects we are talking. beforehand. It sounds like you have had a fascinating life up to here, hopefully much longer as well. But welcome to the show, and who are you? What's on your mind?
Hi everyone. Thanks, Amy. I want to apologize in advance if I come across uneasy or whatever. This is probably my first time doing a more face-to-face online show. I'm currently on a panel with R and Ra reading the Bible, and I'm kind of giving my perspective as someone who grew up Orthodox. I feel like that's actually quite a broad label, seeing as I grew up in a very ultra, fundamental Jewish is probably a better expression. Yes, it's within the tradition of Orthodoxy, but it's the most literalist, conservative, fundamentalist type of Orthodox Jewish upbringing, I would say. Not quite a cult, but there are certainly things that are...
Just to clarify,
yes,
the curly fry Jews.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's the scientific term.
Well, not me. So actually,
no.
Yeah. So I guess I should give a brief overview, kind of, for people who maybe not be aware, how kind of Christianity, of course, has hundreds of sects and divisions, or whatever you want to call them. And in Islam there's Shia and Sunni and different groups like that. But in Judaism it's more like you're either very Jewish or you're not very Jewish. And I was very, 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 very Jewish.
I'm sorry, forgive once again. So you're saying that you are either a Jew or you're Jewish.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a spectrum, and there aren't that major theological differences, really. It's more like you either believe most of it, you believe none of it. It's kind of like that sort of thing. So you've got Orthodoxy, which is traditionally kind of believes in God and the Bible, being mostly literal, I would say. And then you've kind of got the other sort of movements kind of away from that. So you had Reform. It's a reformation of Orthodoxy. They were the ones to kind of introduce female rabbis, LGBT. I just said it wrong. LGBT Q plus people in the clergy, rabbis and such. Equality for men and women. So they actually did quite a good job at kind of bringing an ancient religion into the modern age. Modern age back in the late 1800s, I think it was. And then there's a couple of other little movements that kind of kind of branched off Reform to become a bit more traditional, conservative, I think might be similar to that, or as Reconstructionist, whatever. But mostly it's just you're very Jewish or you're not very Jewish. And then you've got because of the diaspora, there's lots of traditions from different parts of the world. So one of these traditional things within European or Ashkenazi Judaism was the sort of mysticism, very similar to the Kabbalah, but they kind of developed it into a bit more of a philosophy, a bit more down to earth. Again, in the late 18th century, I think, in Eastern Europe, and that kind of became the Hasidic movement. And the Hasidic movement is kind of the idea you don't necessarily need to be it's about being pious in religious, I'm trying to think of a better way of saying it, but if you think about Catholicism versus Protestantism, Those are not
That's
swear
me
words. That's just me not
half the
pronouncing
week.
them.
I only
I
know
don't-
one language and I can barely speak it. So you're
Yeah. Well, I grew up speaking English, but there was like, a bit of Hebrew and Yiddish and Russian thrown in when I was naughty.
oh my.
Yeah, my mom likes to use Russian swear words because no one knows what they mean.
See, my mom will use Yiddish, so I know like broken Yiddish. You got schmutz on you.
Yeah.
You'll have half
you're-
a sentence in English, the other half in Yiddish, or randomly, like in a blender. With here's a couple English words, a Yiddish word. Couple
Yes,
English,
exactly. But
Yeah.
right on back to you because I don't want
Yeah. So
me to spitz everywhere.
yeah. So actually, my English is something that I had to work on kind of when I was leaving the community. Like I improved my grammar and maybe I haven't improved my speaking that well, but I read a lot and everything that I kind of learnt when it came to science and stuff I had to learn on my own. I probably learnt more Yiddish after I left as well. So I was just saying, like, so the Hasidic movement kind of revigorated a lot of like poor, illiterate Jewish people living in like Eastern Europe. And it kind of brought a more mystic side to the religion. It's a bit more you don't have to be a genius and study. You can just read psalms and sing songs and like, I don't know, show your love or whatever. And it became a very big movement and became very popular, and there were so many like communities that kind of followed this philosophy and kind of developed it, that nowadays some of the most like I guess sects of Judaism are actually just communities that kind of develop their own little version of this Hasidic lifestyle, and a lot of it is just tradition. So the names of these communities are actually based on
I'm
a
sorry.
place.
Can I just want to interrupt you just one more
Yeah,
time? Tradition.
Yes.
Tradition. Okay, right back up.
Yeah, so imagine if you've watched that movie or the play or whatever. Like, imagine those Jews living in the shtetl or the little like village, and there was the rich ones and the poor ones and the scholars and everyone else that kind of didn't know anything, because you were a child. I mean, Jews do value education, but at that point it was, you would get educated to a certain point and then you had to go and work the field. So only the select few actually went and studied more advanced studies, and the Hasidic movement did become very popular. And one of those movements, some of those movements today are the most traditional because they've kind of brought it with them. They've kind of fought for it, and they're happy the way they are, and it works for most of them. But for some of them, for some people, if you grow up in a certain community, it doesn't work for you. And I think that's probably quite a generic thing that happens everywhere.
Well, I'm going to interrupt you again because we have a $2 super chat. I'm going to answer this, but then I also want your answer as well.
Okay.
I'm not going to say this right. When was Amy's Rumpenspring? Which I have looked into to mean the adolescent time, the Jewish adolescent time.
Oh, really?
And so
Rumspringa.
I could just, I'll give mine, and then I want to ask Isaac's. And so I made a deal with my mother that I would get my bar and bat mitzvah, and she would get to, have a happy cry, and I would get cake, and we would be done, and that'd get to be my last religious thing. And so I did that, and I will continue to show off however much money they spent Olive, bet, vet, olive, bet, vet, gimel, dollar, hey, gimel, dollar, hey. Money well spent, if you ask me. And then after that, I just did it. I became the religion of Super Nintendo and 64,
Yeah.
probably moving over to Dreamcast. And so it wasn't until much later that I got interested in religion in my early 30s and stuff like that. And so I would care much more now than when I was probably in Hebrew school, but it was the American Hebrew school. And so what I want to really do is I just want to replace what was yours like, Isaac, and hand it right back over to you. And thank you so very much, Porpoise, for the support.
Yeah,
But
so
Isaac...
so it looks like since the Porpoise said that Rumspringa is when the Amish and all of the Mennonites leave to experience the world before committing themselves to the church. Now, that is not something that we were given. You don't like, oh, you should go out and see if you actually want to stay in the community. Like, you're brought up with the expectation that, you know, you're going to stay here, live with your parents, go to school, go to yeshiva or seminary, and then you're going to date the people that are recommended to you, and then you're going to get married around 20, 21, 22, depending on if you're a boy or a girl, depending on which exact community, and then have lots of babies, and God will help you have that many children somehow, and make a living without any proper secular education either. But that's, yeah.
And okay, just wanted to have my Bible ready. But thank you so very much, Porpoise, for that support, and Isaac for that answer. But yes, we were talking, it was a great transition because we were kind of talking that adolescent age of religious tradition anyway.
Yeah, so, you know, growing up with expectations like that, you know, it's not like they're not necessarily told like you need to be a housewife, you need to, you know, one day you're going to be this. It's just, this is what everyone is doing, right? There's no other way of living. And if it's not something that you want, that can really affect, you know, even as a child, it can really affect the way you think, the way you look at your community, the way you look at your parents, your teachers. So I, from quite a young age, I had a little bit more access, I should say, to secular knowledge, what was going on out there. I used to go to the public library. I used to read books. One time I was suspended for 2 days from like middle school or whatever, like around the age of like 14, 15. And because the schools are so shit, I'm sorry, I'm allowed to swear.
It happens. Oh no, we are between PG-13 to R.
I know Americans are a bit weird when it comes to swearing, so.
Well, it's one of those things where on TV shows you can't swear, but you can show almost I don't think you can show a breast, but you know what I mean. Sometimes the contradictions are right in front of your face. But
Right.
Sending love, America. I love you. Sending love. But right back over to you, Isaac.
Yeah, so
They love you too.
What was I saying? Oh yeah, so I got suspended, and the school was so shit that they didn't even tell, like, my parents didn't know that I was suspended. So I just left in the morning. I'm like, I'm going to school with my backpack. And I went to the library and I read The Lord of the Rings for 2 days. And that was the most fun I had.
I feel like that was an equal trade-off. The teacher may not have felt that way, but...
And no one knew. Like, I just went back to school the next time. No one knew my parents didn't know I'd been suspended. the teachers didn't know that I was pretending to go to school and going to the library. But yeah. Yeah, so I had a bit of more access, I guess, to information out there, and I don't remember exactly how I was introduced to, more general scientific knowledge, how the cosmology, how the world works, or anything like that. But I started distrusting my teachers, and I'll be like, you're telling me this, but then I've seen, the evidence for other things. And one of those things for me was actually this idea that my community has when it comes to cosmology. They literally believe that the sun and the sun revolves around the earth rather than the other way around. Now, that was quite standard cosmology for a long time. And I think the main reason why, Orthodox Jews might believe in that is because they kind of see Maimonides as being like an expert opinion or whatever. And that's probably their only knowledge of cosmology they know is like reading from Maimonides. And his model, I think, was more or less Aristotle or Plato or something like that. So it's very old school stuff. And people still believe it to this day because they don't know any better. They don't really think about it. It's not that important to them either. That's one of the big things about, I think, like fundamental Jews versus fundamental Christians is for a Christian, the most sort of non-scientific bits of the Bible are more important, like the creation story and original sin. It needs to happen. Otherwise, what's the point of Christianity? So in Judaism, it's not so important. So, creationism, cosmology, the flood, they're not really, it's not that important.
Isaac.
And people choose.
Either Abcdeig happened or it didn't, okay?
Yes. I love the Christians who kind of bring up, at the mitochondrial DNA and Eve, and it's like, yeah, that's got nothing to do with you.
I just got a new shirt. I'm really excited.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
excited so much that I'm going to show it off while I'm not even wearing it. Look how cute this shirt is.
That's very cute. That's a really nice style.
No, right? And we generally have something prepared just in case. If you ever want to talk about codons, I know that every single creationist does. And so we are fully prepared tonight whenever they decide to come on. Once again, this all looks very fancy, but it's only because many years ago I got bitten by Carrot Top. And so this all just naturally flows from that event. Anyway, right back over to you, Isaac. We're talking mitochondria.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I went to a school, all boys school. Boys and girls were separated from like 4 years old. That was fun. We had secular education, which we called English, which I've heard is, I think Amish people also say that they like talk about English when referring to like like secular culture in general. Oh yeah, the English.
But you also use the demon torches, so little subtle things. We call them lights, but going forward.
Yes. Yeah. So so like we had English, which was science, math, English, history, for like 1 hour a day, and then at like age 13 they just stopped. But I was a nerd, and my teacher liked me, and I was able to like join the younger year for a year. My whole year class would go home at 4:30 p.m. and I would stay on till 6 to study with the younger class because I liked the maths and the science. You know, I still don't know like past pre-algebra maths, but which can be very annoying, but whatever.
That's okay. Liking it is half the battle.
So very early on I was learning stuff by myself. I was reading I got on YouTube back in 2009 or whatever. And so I didn't trust my teachers because I was like, you're telling me the sun goes around the earth. That makes no sense. Like if you even just think of gravity, like how could something small be the center of a gravitational system? It doesn't make any sense. But they didn't know about that. My science teacher thought that dogs, like different breeds of dogs, were different species. And he probably thought they were created species as well, by the way.
We consistently get someone on here, or we used to get someone, because they self-trigger themselves sometimes, who is their whole big sell as a young Earth creationist is that dogs are not related to wolves. And we're just like, why? Why is this the hill to die on? And apparently...
And then you got the other creationists that are like, well, all dogs, foxes, dogs, coyotes, jackals, they all come from a pair of dogs that were on the ark. So they're definitely related. That's one way of putting it. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah.
There we go. Yes, exactly.
Where's the giraffes, though?
Yeah. Why is there always only 2 giraffes? There should be 7 pairs.
Well, James's favorite point about Noah is that you can't have like a Noah toy or a picture or whatever without having a giraffe. Giraffes are what sell it.
Heads sticking up.
Yes,
Giraffes,
because
elephants,
that's how
and
you know it's
lions
big.
are
Like, oh, look at the cute little giraffes. Oh, wow. Look at all the dead bodies floating out there. Oh, for the glory of God.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, people who are scientifically, like, illiterate, they don't actually appreciate, like, the diversity that there is in the world when it comes to, well, everything, of course. Diversity of language, diversity of history, diversity of people, culture. And then, but animals, it's like, they really think that there are, like, you know, a few hundred types of animal, or, you know, max. Like, what? There's multiple species of lion? Like, what? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but they're like 6 days. That does make sense.
Oh, yeah,
now,
definitely.
I like it when you hear the very metaphorical ones who will say, well, 6 days, it could have been 6,000, or it could have been 4.5 billion to 3.8 billion. I'm like, okay, you're stretching here, but I like it. And then there are the Jews in Israel right now that are counting down. They're like, screw you, whatever clock you're using, 2000, yeah, whatever. It's 5,000.
Yeah, so religious Jews. That's like the religious calendar. So 5,780 or something like that. So it's they have somehow Usher, or whatever his name was. Usher? Wait.
Usher Bishop, is he the one who also set the calendar?
Yeah, the guy who, you know, said it's 6,000 years or whatever, right?
Yes, who said 6,000.
Somehow he has he calculated it differently. But like all Orthodox Jews around the world, or I guess any Jew around the world, like the Jewish year has a specific date and it's not the same. I think with like Christians, it's very much like, oh, it's just 4,000 BC. And so it's 4,000 BC. So that means that now that it's 22, it must be 6,022 years ago. It's like the guy working in the museum with the dinosaurs, and someone asked him how old the dinosaur is, and he's like, this one is 66,000,020. And they're like, how'd you know so exact? And he's like, well, I've been here for 20 years and it was 66 million when I came.
I have a terrible naughty joke but I can't.
I like
This is a
naughty
Norm
jokes.
Macdonald joke.
Here we go.
But a gentleman once came to his best friend and he said, "My goodness, I made $462.05." And he said, "My goodness gracious, that is amazing. But who paid? But what did you do? How could you have made all of this money so quickly?" And the gentleman said, "Well, I couldn't help it. I had to get on my knees and go to town and do what a man's got to do for money." And he said, "Oh my God, that's horrible. You have soiled yourself. But for so much money, who gave you the 5 cents?" And he looked his friend straight in the eye and he said, "Every one of them." And all right, that's a Norm Macdonald joke. If it goes over your head, I hope it does. Then you are an innocent human being. Isaac, right back to you.
I don't think of myself as innocent, but I still didn't get it.
But we'll go back because they really do believe there are some people that say that the dinosaurs were dragons and that the dragons were the ones as detested, as written in the Bible. We
Yep,
get these
yep.
Jews
There
and
might be some
Christians.
alive today, even. There could be.
I think that's a more Christian idea. Like dragons aren't really. Jews will say dinosaurs are as fictional as dragons, but they, like my dad
Oh,
would
it makes
say.
sense.
But that's the thing. I've actually talked them around to the idea that dragons are not rubbish. Maybe God created the world with them in place, and it's just loading the game at a point, and that's it. And like the fact that they can agree with that, I'm happy because it makes them a bit more. I feel like this sort of, when you teach people these things, it makes them very distrustful of science in general. And that's why religious Orthodox Jewish communities in America especially have problems with anti-vaxxers, measles outbreaks and stuff like that. I mean, I wouldn't say like that is why, but it's a big aspect of it. They don't think of scientists as being people who they don't understand the scientific process and what that means and how we find truth in things. So, a scientist says that, why should I believe him? Scientists say the world is millions of years old. And that's why I see that's my issue with it. Right? You can live this life being oblivious to what's really true, and be happy and keep your festivals and rituals and all that sort of stuff. And as long as you treat other people well, that's all fine and dandy. And let your children explore religion for themselves. It's also very good. But the problem is that these sort of things, like I've spoken to people and they don't think it's very important, the science aspect of education. And this is one of those reasons why I do think it's one of the most important things is you don't get like Orthodox Jewish flat earthers that really, because they don't care about these things. Maybe there are some because they'll be like, well, the Bible says it, why not? And they don't understand the first thing about the scientific process, so they wouldn't know how to figure out if something was true or not. But yeah.
I find that once you start going towards the fundamentalist route, it is almost like there's no rabbit hole you will not go down. It is very often that it's not someone who says, listen, I don't accept global warming. I don't accept the Big Bang. I don't accept evolution. But I should have saved it. But you don't, but the world is round. Well, sometimes we get that. That at least is actually the one free card. Let me rephrase this. You don't often get the world is round.
I mean, isn't Kent Hovind like a very anti-flat earthers and stuff?
Yes, I guess how I'm trying to say, flat Earth is the free card. You don't get many people who say I am 111 and not another. I keep on trying to do it, and then I do an opposite. You don't find many people who say, well, the Earth is 6,000 years old. The Big Bang didn't happen, but evolution is real. There we go. Third time is the charm, ladies and gentlemen. It generally, what happens is they accept one conspiracy theory, and then they start to accept a multitude. Now, I have found with Judaism that the pipeline can be a lot easier to people accepting science. You know, not always. You're going to have your orthodoxy that is going to say, the book said a thing. So, but then I think that there's a good, I hate to say a middle ground, because you were saying there's not too many. There tends to be many Jewish, but I think once you become Jewish, you're much more open to just science. You don't have to have this baggage of, the world has to be 6 days. What are the logistics for that? I don't know. Ask God. Another word. Let me just ask this to you so that you can go back to saying your story. The L word. I find the L word is nearly impossible, nearly hard to explain. Logistics, when we are talking about how any of these story works. I'm like, walk me through the Tower of Babel, okay? So there was a really tall tower that pissed off God for some reason, and then he smacked the tower, and then on the way down, everyone's language is split. I get it from like a fable perspective, but like, work that through me, how God was doing that. And then it kind of dissipates. Logistics, religion.
Yeah, that's the thing. Most with certain religious people, it's not that important to them. I mean, a lot of Christians are, in a sense, believe, they believe original sin and stuff like that, but they're not fundamentalists. They just don't think about it that much. It's not important to them. And the same with religious Jews, like they're technically literalists, creationists, blah blah blah, but they also have a history of arguing with God and developing a law, a system of law that is in the spirit of the law rather than the letter of the law. So it's not that important to them, exactly what God says in this book. I mean, a lot of religious Jews don't even learn, like, read or study in depth, like most of the Tanakh, which is the Old Testament, the Jewish version of the Old Testament, and they'll learn the beginning and stuff as mostly as like learning how to learn. You introduce to kids, you teach them how to read, and then they read translation. Then you introduce them to commentators, and then you kind of introduce them to more in-depth discussion, the Mishnah, the Talmud, and then practical, they need to also learn like the practical rules and stuff, like how do you live today. But these things are written only a few hundred years ago, and things change. There's definitely things that can't change, and that's probably where it comes down to it. This is the tradition, this is the conservatism is more the thing that can't be questioned. This is what the leader, this is what the parent says. It can't be challenged. But a community as a whole, or a student, whatever, they can kind of dive into things and question things a bit more. And
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna keep on reminding. I do see some questions, but
Yeah,
sometimes people don't want their
maybe-
questions. So if you have a specific question for Isaac, feel free to tag James W. or myself at James W. or at Amy Newman, and we will.
I think I did
have a
see
better-
a couple of questions. I think there was someone called.
And
I don't know if they're Jewish or not, but his name sounds very Jewish, like Eli Broin. So so yeah, so Ellie, I saw one question about Black Hebrew Israelites, and as far as I understand them, they are a Christian sect, and a lot of people who kind of believe in those ideas or have been proselytized to them. This is a real religious group that you should believe in, or whatever. They're being given misinformation. It's the whole movement is based on a lie, technically, and there is nothing in Judaism that says like non-Jews have to keep you know, the whole religion or whatever it is. There's no like Jews don't proselytize to non-Jews and say you need to keep these laws or whatever. There is this idea in Judaism which comes from like in the Bible, God kind of gives commands before he kind of develops the religion properly. So they were like, oh, those are the ones he gave to all people. So they're called the Noahide laws, and they're like things like do not kill, do not steal, but also like don't eat like the flesh of a living animal.
Boil a goat in its mother's milk.
No, but no, not that one though. So it's separate. It's nothing to do with the 10 Commandments. It's just like someone went through and they were like, which sayings in the Bible is said as like a commandment by God before like Abraham, right? What is God? So there's one, you know, like be fruitful, multiply is like maybe that's a command, right?
Because God punished the world with the flood before he even gave his commandments, so there had to be some type of law that they were being held to.
Yeah, so generally that's seen as like stealing and lying and sexual misconduct.
The Catholics would probably refer to it as like the natural law, things that are intrinsic.
Well, not him anyway. Yeah, so
there's so many jokes there. I'm just gonna blaze right through that. Had nothing to do with Judaism. Sending love to all religions, though. Shani wants to know what is his opinion on righteous Gentiles.
Right. Yeah. So this is the idea. It's like nowadays that we're kind of you know, nowadays that people are now free to kind of talk about religion and stuff. You know, now that you're able to, you should kind of tell non-Jewish people about Noahide laws and stuff. And so there is actually a movement of people. It's I don't know exactly what it is.
To become proselytizing Jews?
No, it's just like there's a movement of non-Jewish people who call themselves Noahides and follow the Noahide laws, and they kind of see it as their own religion. And it's an interesting concept. I haven't looked into it too much.
At what point, though, when you're growing up in a Jewish family, does your parents come in, they sit you down, and they tell you like the real story, like, hey, we're reptilian shapeshifters from the planet Carmelite, and we have to drink the blood of Gentiles to keep our human form. That's why we're always giving you those special drinks and whatnot. When does that happen?
Oh no, that's the real Jews. You know, everyone else are fake Jews. You know,
I was gonna say past the 3rd grade, but yes, that also works.
You know, all the Orthodox Jews are just they're fake Jews they're actually Turkish and they converted.
Ashkenazis, yeah.
So I need to specify that this is not true. Yeah, the Khazarians and stuff like that. Yeah. Although if obviously
we get them all, we get them all on our side chat.
And we know for a fact, like linguistically, genetically, that Eastern European Jews came from Western Europe. I mean, they speak Yiddish, which is a Germanic language. Like, it's very simple. And we can look through history and we can see like where Jews were living. Oh, they were in Spain, and then they were in France, and then they were in Germany, and then they were in Poland. Like, where does this Turkic people come in at all? And genetically, of course, there's no support for it.
You also flip the feet over. There's actually no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, I think
It's on
there's
the
like
tag.
Hungarian Jews who speak Yiddish, who use Hungarian words, but Hungarians are not Turkic.
Amy's Hungarian.
Yeah. I don't think the Hungarians come from the Huns, but they are non-Indo-European technically. Or they're Indo-European, but not like the European branch. They're the I can't remember what the word is, but it's like the same as like Uralic or something like that, and Finnish as well. But yeah,
There's just very randomly, there's a new movie. The trailer just hit for a bunch of, let's say, Finnish gold digger, not the gold digger that you think about, like a literal gold digger who then finds gold and then gets captured by the guys that were German, and they shouted really loud at Mustache Man. And so it's about him basically, killing Mustache Man's guys. And it looks like a really good movie. Check out. It's a Finnish name. It's like Susi.
Pat Lowinger?
Yes, Pat Lowinger.
Right. Yeah, that's it. Yes, thank you, Morena. She said, yeah, Finno-Uralic languages are not Indo-European. Yeah.
I always just like pointing out to racists that that the Iranian people are the technically true Caucasians because it is the land of the Caucasus. But besides that,
Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, they're all more Caucasian.
Caucasians.
Even a little bit into the Ukraine, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, have we gotten you quite out of Orthodox, though? We were kind of at your teenage years.
Yeah. So I was distrustful. I was learning things by myself, and I'm not sure exactly what age. It was pretty early on, but I kind of realized I didn't actually accept it, but I kind of realized that I wasn't exactly heteronormative, let's say. And because I was a bit more educated on the subject myself, with YouTube and books and stuff, I myself was able yes, I was able to say like to myself like, oh well, there are asexual people and bisexual people and pansexual people. I knew about those concepts
of that, or
so
were they aware of
in
that?
Jewish Orthodoxy, it's just not spoken about. And technically, you can be an Orthodox Jew and be gay. It's just very difficult because there's an expectation of getting married and having kids, and most people would stay in the closet and end up probably getting married and having kids before they realize that they can't live with it.
Unhappy marriage.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's that common now, but that would have been more common back in the day. I have a friend who's only maybe I think he's about 40, so 10 years older than me, and he has a child who's 8, and so yeah, it was more of it wasn't really spoken about. And so if you were a gay teenager, in an all-boys school in Hasidic community, you wouldn't know what you were going through. You might have I think you are taught quite explicitly you're not allowed to jerk off at all. You're not allowed to spill seed, which was one of the things which is one of the early things that I looked into from a scholar. I was looking at it from a more I don't know what the word is, maybe not scholarly perspective, but I was looking into the different
I remember when we got to that part in our Bible study, and Amy was kind of shocked when we were reading the Bible, and it says, and he pulled out of the woman, and God killed him.
Yeah, but he killed him for coitus interruptus, not for masturbation.
Yeah, for pulling out. Yeah, pulling. Well, spilling seed, whether you're doing it through.
God was like, listen.
It doesn't say. It doesn't say it's for spilling seed. It says because he pulled out, and yeah, he did.
I actually talked
seed,
with God very specifically, and he said that he was in the middle of it. I don't know what that means, but then, they ruined his type of porn. So you don't pull out.
God likes the money shots.
That's right.
Yeah, so this was one of those things. So at an earlier age, I realized that I wasn't fitting in, and I had different. I didn't trust what I was being taught. So I was looking into, maybe a more broad Orthodox perspective or a Jewish perspective on like, does it really say that you can't masturbate? Does it really say you can't be gay or have gay sex? And like, I was looking into it like seriously, like, how do you explain these things? And I mean, nowadays I'm like, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. That's not a word. That's not a. I don't give a fuck. Like what it's actually saying.
My
because
favorite part about that last sentence is that you were like, oh my God, can I say that? And then you stepped it up. You're completely able to do that. It's actually adorable. Okay, cool. Continue.
Yeah, no, I'm saying I said I don't give a shit, but that's not a normal thing to say. So I don't mean that I didn't feel bad for swearing. I just realized
you're like, but it has to be proper swearing.
Oh yes. When you swear, one must be proper. Yeah, so I was looking into it seriously and trying to investigate like how do I reconcile, because I still kind of believed in the general idea, and it took time for me to kind of accept that actually the more I look into this, the more I realize that it doesn't make sense. It's not literally true. And it makes mistakes and it's false in lots of places. And I can't trust my teachers to tell me what is right. And also, like, one of the things about especially Hasidic groups in general is because they're so like mystical and stuff, they're very into seeing divine intervention in like mundane things. Literally like, I'm on like my family's WhatsApp group and they'll share a story of like, I lost this thing on the train and then blur and then someone else found it in the bin and they called me and they're like, it's such a miracle. And it's like, maybe, or just the fact that you have your name and number inside the bag and it's not worth it to religious articles aren't worth it to a burglar or whatever. And so they threw it out and you hadn't, whatever the tracking thing in it, like that's not a miracle. It's just whatever. It's so stupid. Then you get like
that's a Tuesday.
Yeah, or like, did you hear this miracle? This baby that lived for 3 days without food and water in Turkey after the earthquake, and then they rescued her. It's like, that's not a miracle. Those are real people who rescued her.
Exactly. God always gets credit for the good things, but then when bad stuff happens, they're always like, well, he works in mysterious ways. Yeah. I'm like, an earthquake isn't very mysterious. It's actually like pretty recorded in tectonic plates.
And we were pretty much brought up with this idea of like coincidences are divine providence. Like it was like, there's a word for it. And it was like, the kids' movies would have stories of like, some guy talks to a policeman and the next day they meet someone else and the same policeman is there. So it's like, Shkocha Protes or whatever. And it's like divine providence. And it's like, okay, teach your kids that if it makes you feel better about the world, makes you feel safe and whatever. So it took me about till the age of 19 when I realized that this life wasn't for me. That I was an atheist, that I was a gay man. I couldn't put myself through that sort of denial of like, hiding myself in such a way. And I kind of made myself like a plan on what I would do. And I'd be like, I need to support myself and make enough money that I can move out and look after myself and prove to everyone that, like, you don't have to be the same as everyone else to be happy. And then I came out to my mum when I was about 23 as being an atheist. And she didn't take it very well. She didn't take it very well. She was like crying and stuff, and I kind of didn't want to be there too long, and I kind of let her sit with it. And then my sister, who I was very close with, one of my 6 siblings that I was most close with, I had spoken to her before about me being possibly gay. I don't think I came out to her like that directly, but she was a bit more open-minded. And so she was like, why is mummy so distraught? Like, what happened? And she's like, oh, he must have told her. And she goes down and she talks to her, and she's calming him down. And she's like, it's not such a big deal. It's not so bad. And she kind of told my mum that I'm gay because that's what she thought had happened. My mum didn't know. But then because from her perspective, like,
accidentally outed you on the gay thing when you just talked about
from my perspective, I was like, nice one.
And you're like, hey, that's just easier for me. I didn't want to do it. Can I ask though? Well, that was going to be the question: is what did she take easier, coming out as atheist or coming out as gay?
It took her a very long time to come to terms with my lifestyle choice when it comes to religion.
I knew that was going to be the answer for some reason. I find that so funny.
Yes. I think my mother was also like my family, even though we were within this really strict community. My family weirdly had a bit more access. Like, we actually had in our home, a computer, and we even had a TV, which we used to watch like The Weakest Link and Top Gear.
You are the weakest link.
Yeah, exactly. And we used to watch Gladiators as a family. Which was kind of strange. And kids movies. We could watch kids movies, but we weren't allowed to tell anyone about the machine, which is what my mom called it.
Which is also another trailer that just dropped this week, called The Machine. I am just unfortunately a trailer and movie person. I'm trying to think of something that's not bougie, so we'll go with person. Another question or comment: Sinister Porpoise says that Deus Ex Machina is the word that Isaac is looking for. Were you talking about? I like the word Deus Ex Machina because not only is it a video game, but it is what I think God is. Yes, is basically a plot device. Fancy word for a plot device.
Yeah, in a story when like everything's going wrong, and then something happens, some person, some weapon or something it helps them succeed, and it's like the God in the machine. That's Deus Ex Machina, and it's literally just the writer of the story being like, well, I'm gonna help the characters of my story.
Exactly. You're like, how is my character gonna get out of this one? And then something explodes throws the character out of it. And you're like, oh wow.
Yeah.
So easy.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm not sure exactly what they're referring to. When I would have been using Deus, I don't think I really meant that. But I guess the idea is similar. I mean, Deus Ex Machina is a literary device to kind of do something that a god would have done in if God existed in real life, or a god would have done in a story with gods. So if you believe in God, then God doing things he's the God in the machine, but it's not really a machine anymore. It's the God in whatever you want to call it, reality, which is whatever. But I see the connection.
The God in some sort of box, but then they try and make him an omni. He's an omni box that can almost never do anything.
Yeah, that's another interesting thing. I don't know if Jews use like I don't think they see God as being like this omnipresent maybe, but not like omnipowerful or omnipotent or something like that. Like, I don't know. I don't think it's that much of a deal. I don't know. It's a weird thing. I think if they thought about it, they would probably think he should be all powerful and all of that. But yeah.
Outside of time and space.
Yeah.
All of those fun characteristics that I guess the Christians and Muslims, well, sometimes you adopt the religious views. I will go to my mom and I will say, what do you think about God? And she'll say, I don't know. I just want to go to heaven. I'm like, Jews don't even believe in heaven. Why do you believe this? And they believe in Sheol and the inspiration of it, or
the heaven and hell after Christianity, really, the idea of heaven and a little bit of the idea of hell kind of did develop in Judaism, mainstream Judaism. I grew up with the idea of like Gehenna, which is hell, but it's not like it's supposed to be a punishment.
That sounds pretty scary.
There's a hot hell and a cold hell, or a hell of fire and a hell of snow, and maximum 12 months. But like, it's not, the idea of eternal punishment is definitely not a thing. And I think I can't even remember. I'm sure I asked it, like, so what happens to like the truly evil people? Like, what happened to Hitler? Did he go to hell and then ended up in heaven afterwards? And I think their answer is normally like, no, his soul is destroyed, which is the worst thing that can happen to a soul or whatever. Like, I'm like, okay.
Yes, we just burn the soul. Well, I was gonna say, I was trying to think of something other than burn as an analogy. I was like, we add chemicals to it, and this goes away.
Yeah, I mean, there is a story in the Talmud that talks about a guy by the name of Yeshu or Jesus, but of course not necessarily the same Jesus of Christianity. He has a similar story, but
in fairness,
he could be based on the other one.
The Tanakh consistently talks of someone named Dan, and I do think it's different than the Dan I know. Just gonna put that out there.
Exactly, it's just two different names, two people with the same name, and so there is actually the story of like this guy Yeshu. He led the people astray. He was a false prophet. Blah blah blah, and he is being boiled in excrement in hell.
No one likes that.
Yeah, but I don't know exactly how long he was supposed to get for it, but...
Well, that is the other thing that I don't think many theists really think about is the concept of forever. They're like, well, the bad guy is burning. Well, like, it sucks to burn for, like... Have you ever put your hand on a stove? That's, like, for a second. Okay, how about do that for a consistent minute? Okay, how about for, like, an hour? Okay, you're saying this is going on forever? It's like, I don't think you understand how long forever is.
Yeah, but also, like, forever, when is that happening?
Yes, exactly.
Right? Because it's only been 2,000 years since Christianity started or whatever, right? So these people have been in hell for 2,000 years. So what's going to happen, in a bit?
Can I give you my favorite new... I guess it's an anti-Christian apologetic because it doesn't apply to the Jews or the Muslims. Okay. I really do feel like you're going to love this. And I have to give a copyright to Tom Rabbit because Tom Rabbit is amazing. He just deals all day with presuppositionalists. And so I think he figures out the perfect way to troll them. Exactly. That face is what you should do every time you hear that word. So basically... Jesus and the Christian God is transgender. Why? Well, let's think about this. 3,000 years ago, before the J-man and everything, God had no sex. So God was this genderless being. As if we're using chromosomes, if we are using the honka-dunk between your legs. I am sticking by that word.
Yeah, I like the like God doesn't have sex, but he has a gender.
And so 2,000 years ago, they believe God became a man. Well, that technically means
Right.
God is a trans man. Now, it only works for Christians. You know, Jews don't believe that he became a male sex.
No.
The Muslims don't believe this. But I love, because every time specifically that I hear this implored by someone else, because with me, they always stay angry, at least on text chat. It's like this low burning hate for the LGBTQ. I can't get them. But when they listen to a straight white male go through this, like every time they start out really angry. And they're like, what do you mean that Jesus is transgender? And then by the end of the conversation, they're like, okay, you know what?
Yeah.
I think I see where you're coming from there.
Yeah. I mean, there is also the idea that because Jesus was born from a woman, but no father, he's a clone.
Oh, that's another thing, is that he doesn't technically have the X chromosomes. It's just Joseph, like, looking at the Mari results going, what do you mean I'm not the father?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, but once again, I'm handing it. I think we're getting closer. I think you said you were like, you're realizing that you were an atheist.
Yeah. So I realized that I didn't believe what I was taught, and I didn't really fundamentally know what I did believe or why I believed it and stuff like that. So, is it Y, not X?
We had a 50-50 shot, and I think we might have got it wrong. But hey, that means we just have to flip our answer to the other answer, and we got it right. Right back.
Yeah, X, Y, binaries. Who gives a shit?
Just filling out, got an eraser, and boom, that's what we said the entire time. But yes, atheism.
I did start watching YouTube about possibly flat Earth stuff before any other sort of skeptical stuff. So I was watching like, what's his name? Fight the Flat Earth, and Dan, what's his name? Frick.
I just want to point out that it is another one is MC Toon. I know that.
MC Toon. I only discovered him much later though.
See, but I accidentally called him Mick Toon, and I stand by this. Okay.
Yeah.
He has to have dots in there. You can't just have MC Toon and not think, because there's a lot of people that if you're last, you go by Mick. It's almost Irish.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is I suck at pronunciation. Comprehension maybe, but pronunciation, no. Right back.
So I never watch flat earthers or creationists or what's it called? Apologists. I never watched their actual stuff. I only experienced them through the medium of skeptic reviewers and stuff like that. I don't know if that's me being in a not going out a bubble, but I don't want to give them any sort of support in the sense of
I will say I really struggle to listen to flat earthers, because my brain, I feel like it knows. It's like we shouldn't be absorbing bad information. But then the other side of my brain is like, but they're human beings. You have to listen to what they say to respond. And it's that they're like, someone's like, well, iron is what makes a star strong. And stars produce iron. And you're like, no, just don't absorb anything that this person is saying.
Yeah, I decided to unsubscribe from all the people that were dealing with flat Earth specifically.
I can understand.
Except for Cool Hard Logic, because he's not exactly blowing up my feed. So
it's what it feels like. It really does feel like you're losing brain cells.
But now, But
I've
I kind
adjusted.
of
This is the last thing.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
I'll say
That's
I
okay.
can't help it. I have learned though that you have to be nice. You have to be nice to them, because if you're mean, if you go in and are like really super rude to them, it makes you come off looking like a D. And so it's like this really hard line where it's like you need to bat away their conspiracy theories, put in science, and be nice all at once, which is not an easy thing. Really not, because they say so many not smart things. There's my PC way of saying it. Right back over to you, Isaac.
That's good. Yeah. So I stopped watching Simon Dan and Fight the Flat Earth and MC Toon and which I did. Greatest Sapien I Keep, whatever. And then I started moving more towards like Gondolas Engineer and watching stuff about mysticism and the early Christianity. Useful Charts is actually a really good channel. It's not a skeptic channel, but it's really interesting to learn about like the history of religion and stuff like that. It's a very good, quite a few different videos that are about religion that are really interesting. And of course Aaron Ra, which is where I got like my biggest it was more the evolution stuff, really. That was, the series, the what's it called, the Systematic Classification of Life series, which I guess I did start watching pretty early on, but my memory's not that great, so I don't know if it was like when I was before I was 23 or if it was after. And I was watching his stuff. I really liked what he was doing. I really enjoyed learning a bit more about things I didn't learn about when I was younger as well. And I kind of got a bit more involved in like the Facebook group about his Phylogeny Explore project, and then I started volunteering and I was reading papers, and it was like this crazy thing, and it was an interesting time. And then I eventually ended up like volunteering and doing data entry, and then at the same time I was studying to become a web developer.
I just want to check if you know this meme. I have to put it into the internet. Developers. If you don't know that, please look it up and you will see. Oh gosh, what is the opposite of Bill Gates? I'm trying to remember what his. It's like a meme from like a decade ago. Not close to Steve. It was kind of like the counter to Steve Jobs, the Microsoft version. Steve Ballmer. Thank you. I just have him in my head doing that. Someone made that. High quality memes, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we're talking about. Also, welcome everybody. Sending love. It looks like the modern day debate just got over, and they're always having lots of fun. I'm going to be modding over at Modern Day Debate tomorrow with James Coons, the lovely one and only. And then I also see Bless Be He. What's up, Bless Be He? I didn't forget about that fire inside of me, baby. How could I ever forget that time? But I'm sending love. Welcome.
That was a good time. The whole kingdom. All of it.
It was 4 or 5 star. I forget which. You never forget your first kingdom. Was Baba responsible for Zoom? No, Satan was. Just kidding. Who would?
Oh God. I used to have an Apple, a Microsoft. What was it called? A Windows phone.
How did that go?
I liked it, but it didn't have any apps. I couldn't get Grindr until I got myself a real phone.
I like how that is the first time you get to say that, and you were like, "No, I meant it. I want my damn Grindr." We normally say that on here. We're like Ken Hoven and Matt Powell. They need to get their.
I had a Nokia Lumia. Yeah. And I liked it. It was
I
like
thought it was
cool.
I could do my Outlook on it. It had like Microsoft apps
and Excel.
Yeah.
I used Excel to track what books I was reading.
Really? Oh, that does sound like a good phone.
Yeah, and then I stopped reading. Yeah. So oh, I should, I guess, bring up. So because of this education that I didn't get, I was very limited to what I could do afterwards. I kind of thought like, oh, I'll try and do like community college sort of thing, or do like try and get into a university that lets me do like an extra year. And because I didn't have, high school diploma or whatever you call them, like in the UK we have A levels.
We call them 16 and pregnant here. No. Continue, please.
I didn't even have like, I don't know what you'd call them, maybe like your 11-year-olds tests or whatever it is. I don't have anything. So
we call those prophets of God here. Oh, we're on fire tonight. Please, TOS. We love you. Please.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, maybe I'll get into a uni or something like that. And then I just got a job in the primary school that I went to as a child. So I was teaching 6-7-year-olds how to read Hebrew.
Can I tell you, that happens in the exact opposite, but every time I tell them not. So when we called it SPED, I very happily, 2 of my classes were special ed, but I have since been able to get multiple degrees. I have been graduate school. I'm about to be a professor.
Have you been diagnosed with ADD?
I have been diagnosed with ADD, but every time, this is how I know that the special ed system doesn't work, because I must be the rare thing because every time I tell a special ed teacher that like I used to be in special ed, they're like, oh wow, oh my god, that's so cool. No, that's great. That's cool. No, keep on.
Oh wow.
I'm like, oh no, you definitely trust in the system.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The infamous short bus.
Yeah, and see, I wasn't on the short bus. It wasn't like that, though. I was put in the same kid. There was like a catch-all because they weren't. Basically, I had the exact similar to experience to you. I used to raise my hand in public school, and they'd be like, "Yes, you." I'd be like, "I need to go to the bathroom," and they'd be like, "Fine, go to the bathroom." I'd be like, "Do. I'm now in the library playing video games," and so I would be on the internet, and I'd just be like, "Boo." And then it would be like the end of the day, and I wouldn't have gone to any of my classes. They'd be like, "Where were you?" And it'd be like, "I don't know, somewhere." And they'd be like, "Okay, we got to put you in this thing." And so I was in a room with both people that had disabilities, physically with wheelchairs, and also the guy wearing a leather jacket that was like, "I don't want to go to school." I'm like, okay, so it's just a catch-all. But I came out of it, and now I teach IT. Woo!
Nice. So there's 2 things I could go into.
Absolutely.
I was also like in yeshiva. I was like, you know what? I prefer not to waste this time or whatever. So I would go to the toilet and spend hours sitting in my cubicle on a phone, watching YouTube videos of this girl reading this How to Speak Japanese book and learning Japanese and writing notes and everything. And it was terrible because it was so old-fashioned. It was like, watakushi.
You see, I wanted to learn Japanese because you sit there as a teenager listening to dubbed anime, and then you try to learn Japanese, and then it's slightly harder.
Only subs.
Only
subs.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. You should only listen to subs, and you should get them on our knees. This is the type of comedy that we have here. Isaac, I feel like we should go for another 15, 20 minutes and then maybe open up for open mic.
Right. Yeah, so I guess I'll bring it along as quickly as possible. So
but don't feel rushed. Feel free to say as much as you want. But I can feel you escaping religion in your conversation.
Oh yeah. So yeah, it was a very slow process in a sense, but once I kind of made the decision I'm gonna leave, it kind of all fell in place. And I was like still being a good boy, but I was like trying things out. And I was like, even though I knew in my head that I didn't believe, it still was like, it felt like a big thing to me to like, eat like non-kosher things and branch out a bit. I think I didn't eat pork until I was like 25, maybe.
Did you feel naughty when you were doing it?
No, I mean, at that point it was like, I've been waiting. I was like, I want to do it in a restaurant.
Do this right now.
And I was like, this is not what they said it was gonna be. I like bacon, but like
that was the question. That was the exit. Titan beat me to it. You were already answering it.
Yeah, I like bacon a lot, but I generally choose to eat healthier foods, so as much as I can. So because I don't have this like, I didn't grow up with it. I don't have like a nostalgic like addiction or anything when it comes to bacon or pork. So it's very easy for me to choose to have beef or chicken. But I'll have a pork bun or whatever it's called. Where it's like so soft that it's like almost liquid. But yeah, so developed that way. So I ended up just like working in the school, and I was like kind of stuck there. And then eventually, when I was able to like get a proper job in like a wholesaler, I was able to make enough so I can move out from my parents and start living my life properly. And then divine providence. No, a friend of mine from America came to London, and he asked me to come to a bar to meet him and his friend. And we were chatting, and his friend was going on and on about this web development course that he was doing, and I was very interested in it. And he's like, "Do it, go for it." And yeah, I went for it and quit my job and studied, and now I'm a senior React developer, so it's all good.
Woohoo!
Yeah. One of the best decisions I ever made in my life.
Once again, not to be redundant, but now you're a developer.
Yeah.
Developer. Okay.
And as I was studying, I got into the Phylogeny Explorer project, and I'm working on it still. I know it's been a long time, and there's literally only like 1-2 of us working on it. So
would you be able to? Because I will say, we're going to put all of our cards on the table.
Yeah.
The lovely Pieter, who comes on our channel often, gonna go for it. The producer of RN Raw, he said that you were an amazing. I can't help quote other gay gentlemen, and so. He said that we should have you on not only for your background, but to actually maybe even a separate episode to really just talk about the phylogeny challenge. And I guess, would you like to maybe give the elevator pitch, or what is someone who's never even heard about it? What can you tell them?
Right. So the Phylogeny Explorer project was this idea that was born by Aaron, which I think it came from the idea that when he was making his videos about evolution, he wanted to show people, how things are related. And, to visually show that you normally use a sort of family tree, phylogram, dendrogram, whatever you want to call it. And there's lots of places you can find them. Wikipedia has loads. And you can, crop them out and put them in your videos and stuff like that. But there's also lots of different versions of the same information. We're constantly, discovering new things, genetic studies. At one point we thought tortoises were like their own thing, but now we know they're just, close to archosaurs, but not quite, or whatever. I think that's where they go. But they used to be like outside reptiles, but now they're within reptiles. Like things happen is like that all the time. And so the data is changing, and there's different websites that have data. Some of them are really good. Some of them aren't as good, like visually. Some of them look good. And so the Phylogeny Explorer project was this idea that we should kind of make almost like a wiki community that would bring in all this data from all these places and curate them in such a way where it is easy to edit and easy to manage, but also is secure. So the idea would be like you would have people that could volunteer and edit, and they could read papers and, you know, be like, actually, this belongs here. Actually, this is called that. This, oh, here's some information about it that's interesting, which we want to build out afterwards. And then people who actually are like experts in the field or professionals, I don't know if that's the right word, but they would kind of review these things and be able to like say, this is good enough for the public to see. So it's kind of like a wiki, but with an extra secure layer. And there's a lot of ideas that once we have that data in place, we can do a lot of cool stuff with it.
Manipulate it.
Yeah, and you can, yeah, you want to visualize, you know. I want to visualize, you know, let's say flying, right? So you've got how does flying kind of work? It's not necessarily, you know, only birds can fly. Like insects can fly and pterosaurs can fly, and there are mammals that can fly like bats and, you know, things that are almost flying or whatever. So there's a lot of like, you know, homology versus what's that word? Like things that look similar and things that come from the same place. So like, you know, a wing.
I wanted to say homeostasis, but it has nothing to do with it at all.
Yeah,
that is just your
so
body.
like an insect wing and a bird wing are homologous. A fish, they have a similar use. But our arm and a chicken wing are structurally the same, but they're not used in the same way. So that's got another word. Oh, analogous.
Analogous.
Oh, so maybe I got them wrong.
Oh, okay. I just want to interrupt because I want to do a lovely shout out and send to both Michael Smith and their nephew for watching. I just want to send all the love and respect and woohoo science in the world.
Yeah.
So I hope you're having a good time.
Getting the science out there to the public in a really accessible way is the main goal. Yeah.
And so just sending so much love to the entire Skeptic and Ranting community. And we are going to, I wanted to send a shout out. I want to send love to everyone that's still watching with us, like Goth and Tim and Sinister, Marina, everyone out there, Doorknob Head, Tsunami, Ozzy, but
Tsunami.
Woohoo! She's like, I saw this last time. Get this man some pork carnitas. Carnitas.
Is that Mexican food? We don't get good Mexican food in England. We have Nando's, and it's like Britain's favorite South African Mexican place from. Oh, I'm confused now, but it's like. It's our favorite Mexican food, but it's not real Mexican food, and it's actually a South African company, but whatever.
Do you like spicy food?
I can handle a little bit, but I prefer when it's spicy with flavor and not just like sharp.
Okay, I can do, but I found like
I don't like hot chili by itself, but a good like curry. Yeah.
Do you do wings?
Korean fried chicken, I guess, is similar.
Korean fried chicken.
And if you get the spicy one, they're pretty good. But I'm not from Texas. I can't handle like ghost pepper.
I went to Texas for the first time. It was so exciting. I hope I get to go there the next year for next debate con. But I was at the first debate con, and I still want to hand it over to you. In case is there anything we have missed of this picture? Because we have a chance to actually do an entire episode on the phylogeny challenge.
Yeah.
But is there anything you want to go in depth a little bit more into, or in depth about your experience coming out of Judaism, in depth about your experience now? Any other flavor that we have missed?
I think, the only one thing that we kind of want to get into a little bit is cognitive dissonance, where something is true, but you wish it not to be so much. Absolutely. That I understand that it can cause like not pain, but like discomfort, and it forces you to kind of somehow explain it away or whatever. So, and that wasn't something that maybe I experienced that often, that much. Maybe at the beginning, but I saw it so often with people, because even though I was kind of questioning for myself things, I used to go and argue with missionaries in Speaker's Corner. So there's a place in one of the big parks in London that's like historically for like hundreds of years has been this place for people to go and speak whatever they want. Like Americans, you have free speech, kind of for everyone technically, but for us it was like, oh, you only had free speech if you went on Sunday afternoon to this place, and you could say whatever you wanted against the king, the queen, the government, whatever. And it would have been a place where, you know, what's his name, you know, Karl Marx went, and different.
Say Mark Twain.
Lenin, I think, was also turned up there a couple of times or something. But now it's just missionaries. So I was like, there's these Christians and these Muslims. Let's go. And I kind of talked to like a friend of mine at the religious high school that I was in. We would go and we would argue the Jewish position. And we went and we had our, you know, Jewish Bible with the English translation. And I found it so interesting because I would end up making them argue with each other. The Muslims and the Christians would argue with each other, and I would like just jump in and be like, well, actually, and like, what side are you on? I'm like, neither.
Just here to wait until one of you figure out which one's right.
Yeah, it was interesting. So I definitely saw a lot of that there, and one experience I had that really is one thing that I saw that really like made me go, this is crazy. These people that I grew up with are crazy, but they don't even realize it or whatever. And I don't think that's really true, but in certain ways, cognitive dissonance makes you do weird things.
I'll say this because I get yelled at by, not me personally, but Shannon Q will often say that we shouldn't call theism a mental illness, and I agree with that.
That's very true, because
I view mental illness as functionality. So I say I don't have gender dysphoria anymore because I have transitioned and now I'm just doing everything else. And so in a weird way, religious people are functional. They just go about their day. It's almost like because they think it's normal, they act normal. It's like this weird thing where you make it true, I guess. And so, but what I will say is I think that it is somewhere between being wrong and a single delusion on a single subject.
Yeah.
Somewhere between that line, I think we can, depending on the person and the belief.
So I would go Saturday afternoon. I mean, that's the whole thing to talk about, like what is the Jewish Sabbath, but I would go out in Saturday afternoon to my friend's house, and we would have like really interesting discussions. Like that family, the guests, whatever. I was so much more open with them than like my own family. So, you know, they probably thought I was an atheist pretty early on. But I remember having this argument with his mother about, you know, being a woman in religion, in such a conservative like community. Like, what did that mean? And we had like it was a normal conversation, but I kind of got frustrated at one point, and I said to her, like, you know, under Jewish law, you know, you are considered the same like level as a minor or a slave or a mute or whatever, not a mute, but like a deaf and dumb person at the same time. And she said to me, well, there have been many great slaves.
Holy.
There were great people that were slaves.
And James and I consistently say almost, I'm sure there's someone out there, but almost always you only get the people who defend slavery from religion.
Oh, for sure.
I don't know why. Well, we do know why. But I'm saying that because we can pretend that it's not in the holy text. But yes, it's disgusting, and it's cognitive dissonance. Also, it is the people. This is how they frame this conversation. We are the most pro-freedom, pro-women, pro-children people out there. And then you're like, oh, are you? Well, are you pro-women on this? Are you pro-children on this? Are you pro-freedom on this? Like, of course we're not.
They have they look at it in a different way. Yeah, so like these communities, they think they're pro-women because they protect the women, and the men and women are kept separate, and but and women are still allowed to run business and everything. They're not limited by anything. Okay, but they still can't be a rabbi. They can't be they can't be a leader of a community in most senses. And there are, of course, different sects that are like women can't drive and whatever. Yeah, and there's also like the whole dress code and stuff like that. But whatever.
Also,
they think they're
I will say, you commonly think that only the men wear yarmulkes and kippas, but the women can wear head stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
There were 2 buckets when I was going through Hebrew school. They could wear the snowflakes or whatever they put on their heads.
Yeah, so all the married women in my family wear wigs, and they look very good, so they like them.
Listen, I was saying this is horrible. I think we were talking about this the other day. I think Ben Shapiro looks good in a kippah, okay? I'm not saying. I like how much you cringed at that. But look, he's not ugly. I think his political views are disgusting, but he's not disgusting. Neither is his wife. So work harder, Ben. Work harder. What are we talking about? Yes, we are talking about from orthodoxy to secularism. We have been having a conversation with Isaac. If you are in text and have a question for him, this is your last chance to get it in before we at least go to the open mic portion where you can ask him face to face or talk to a kitty and Isaac. And yes, I guess I'm going to keep on asking, trying to squeeze any juice out of you, Isaac. Is that the last thing that you had on your mind? And if not...
Yeah, I think so. That's good. I just, blessed be he wants to know if I'm a scientist or something. And I would say maybe a data scientist, but I am not formally trained in anything. So
yes, I think...
Data or beta?
You can do it too.
And we had Isaac on because I think that is an interesting story. I think whatever religion, going from some sort of fundamentalist tradition to a secular version, especially with Judaism, where there are many secular Jews, I think is a worthy conversation to have. It's not only is it interesting, but we could break Isaac up kinky into 2 parts because we're having him back on so he could talk biology and evolution and common ancestry with that more philosophy challenge.
Happy to talk about that stuff. Like, I don't think I'm like an expert or anything, but I've seen so many core questions where the answers are like, about the whole like apes. Are we apes? Are we descended from apes? And like everyone seems to like answer the question right, but in a wrong way. And so maybe I do know a little bit more, but mostly from not from training or anything.
You could have worse people to learn those type of science communication skills from.
Yeah.
And a $2 super chat sending in love. Woohoo! Much love, Amy. Thank you so very much, man. You'd saves. I also have to do this now. I'm contractually obligated to. And okay, I am going to send love to everyone that's actually been sending love and spending time with us. Before we go into the open mic, Isaac, is there anything that you would like to say as just who you are and what you are doing on the interwebs?
Yep. So besides the Philology Explorer project, which is something that I spend, I'd like to say I spend a lot of my free time on. I feel like I'm not spending enough time on it, and that does upset me. But it's something that we're improving rapidly, which I'm I am very happy with that, but we'll get there soon. So like if there's any software developers or you know what, even like a manager of some sort, if you can volunteer some time to help us manage ourselves, because I'm not a very self-managed person, and want to volunteer and help you know, educate the masses about evolution and you know, human origin, stuff like that. Yeah, get in touch with the Phylogeny Explorer project. We have a Facebook group. We have a Discord. No, we have a Slack channel actually. But yeah, maybe I'll give you a link or something to the Facebook group. That'd probably be best.
Absolutely. Give any links and we will show. I'll put in the chat on the screen. I will send it to my mother.
Yeah. And separately from that, I'm also a guest on Aaron Ra's Blasphemous Bible podcast, which is the next one is going to be this Saturday at 7. No, it's in the morning in America, so I actually don't know what time it is, but it's like wait, what time is it? It's 5 p.m. for me, so I guess it's 5 p.m. GMT or 5 p.m. UTC.
It's also Tool time. If you are Tool, Tim the Tool Man Taylor. I love my 90s references. All back to you.
Great. Yeah, so come join us. That's a bucket of fun. We got, besides me and Aaron, there's Tomer, who is really into like diving into the old school Jewish interpretations and commentaries, and that can be very interesting. We got Lawrence, the Milwaukee atheist. He's great. He brings a really like interesting Christian history. He's like, I think he's I don't know if he speaks it, but like he knows ancient Greek. It's great. And there's Ivory Darkness is on it for a bit now as well. And Lilith, oh, what's her full name? I don't know. Is it Lilith Unchained? Something like that. I'm sure you know who Lilith is. Lilith is on the panel as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know who she is. Yeah, come join us. It's a great time.
And I just want to ask the last question before we go into the open mic. For those just hear the words Torah, Tanakh, and Talmud. Would you be able to give maybe a short, the briefing?
Yeah. So the Torah is means like the law or the teaching, and it can either mean like in general, like the law, or the teaching of the religion. It can also specifically refer to like the Jewish version of the Bible, so like scripture. But even more specifically, it refers specifically to the first 5 books, which are also known as the 5 books of Moses. And in Hebrew, it's actually called Chamishe Chumshe Torah, which means the 5 books of the Torah, or 5 books of the law, I think is a good translation. What was the other one?
So the Tanakh?
Yeah, so Tanakh is an acronym for Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Bible, Nevi'im, which is prophets, and Ketuvim or Ksuvim, which is the writings. So those three sections of the Bible put together is the Tanakh, and it's technically the Jewish version of the Old Testament. It's more or less
learning
all
it's
the
an
same.
acronym. This is my moment when Ant-Man is looking and he's spoiler alert, but he's like, MODOK, it's an acronym. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, Tanakh is an acronym. Torah, Nevi'im, Tovim. And so it's the Old Testament and Tanakh are more or less the same. They have the same books. They're ordered slightly different. Nowadays, Tanakh, like Jewish Bibles are printed with the same paragraph and verse numbers as the Christian Bible. and that was just because of ease of use.
Marketing.
Yeah, I mean, the Christians invented it, and it was like, you know what, it works. Why not? Even though it doesn't really match up properly with the stories, or like if you actually look in a Torah scroll, that's another thing. The word Torah can refer to as not just the 5 books themselves, but a physical Torah scroll might also be called a Torah. If you look inside there, it's written in like chapters, but they don't match up with the chapters that you're familiar with. Yeah, they're more like story.
And then the last is the Talmud.
Yeah, and Talmud is a word given to the first written sections of what's called the oral Torah. Like the Torah, like as I said, it's kind of can be used in a general and specific way. So in a more general way, it refers to the law, the teachings given down to the Jews at Sinai, whatever. So Rabbinic Judaism believes that the written law was given, and there was also a oral law, and that oral law tradition was kept until first, second centuries when they started writing it down. So the Talmud refers to the first kind of few sections of that oral law that was written down in between, I think, the 1st to 6th century, something like that. And so it's comprised of like some more like generic sayings and stuff, like teachings, and then like a commentary around it. And it kind of has like discussions in it. You can't read it and be like, this is the law. You read it and it's like, this, according to this guy, this is the law. According to this one, and it doesn't necessarily
they're arguing.
Yeah, it's like a recording of what was going on in the schools and stuff. So you'd have like a teaching that was passed down, which is called a Mishnah or whatever, and then they would kind of bring in like other versions and argue over like what's it really mean and stuff like that. And then there's commentaries on that. So the Talmud is a beast, and people say things like, "Have you read the Talmud? It says Jews blah blah blah," and it's like, yeah, you can't just read a Talmud. It's not a book that you can just read it open and read an excerpt or whatever. It's like it's a whole massive discussion that's going on, and yes, there are things in there, crazy stories, and like there's stories about the Bible. There's stories that are like present. There's stories about monsters and like all sorts of things. Yeah, there's one of my favorite stories in the Talmud is the story of this rabbi who went on a sea journey, and the sea was lit up. And he asked the sailors, the sailors should know that, they go around, oh, why is the sea lit up? And they said, it's the eye of the Leviathan. And I always found it fun. The eye of the Leviathan. And I guess that was their explanation for, I don't know what they call it, like the phosphorus, like the fish or the algae that shines in the dark and stuff.
You mean photosynthetic bacteria and then the fish?
Like the stuff that like I'm sure you've maybe seen pictures of like beaches that are like lit up, like algae and stuff floating in the water.
Yes, I think that is. It's photosynthetic bacteria.
Bioluminescence.
Yeah, bioluminescence.
The living,
okay. Is that
living creatures that are living creatures? I hate that word. Living organisms that emit light.
Got you. Not just the green. It is actually them glowing.
Yeah, that's it. Yes,
gotcha.
It's very eerie to be in the middle of the sea and to have like a patch of water surrounding your ship and it's glowing. And they said that was the eye of the Leviathan, which is interesting. I didn't know fish had eyes that glow, but whatever.
Well, it also sounds like a World of Warcraft item.
Yeah, I also found it funny, like thinking about it. Like, so there's a fish, a giant fish, like giant fish. It's so big, God had to kill.
Jewfish? The Goliath grouper?
Much bigger than that. It's so big that God had to kill its mate so that it wouldn't destroy the world by overpopulating it. And I just thought it was really funny, this giant fish swimming along.
In size, huh?
Swimming along underneath the boat, like, hey there.
Also, the other apologetic we often get is and you have to frame it this way, is that no one could live inside a whale. And they go, of course not. That's silly. It was a giant fish. Oh, well, I didn't know it was why didn't you say that at the beginning?
Whales are fish in the context of that language.
Of the Bible. Anyway.
According to the Bible,
And in cladistics, they are also fish. if you consider fish to be a synonym of vertebrate.
Well, first thing that swim, but it's still a mammal. Still going.
Yeah, but I'm saying if fish is a clade, then it has to include all of its descendants. And since we mammals and reptiles are descended from fish, we are also fish. But it's only
I see what you're doing.
It's only if you treat the word fish as being a cladistic, like scientific concept, and not a
well, it's because
a normal common term to refer to vertebrates that are not tetrapods.
Exactly. It has to do with they don't look at us with a backbone, and they're like, they don't say, "Oh, look at these two backboned animals," because that would sound ridiculous. They go, "Oh, you think you're a fish," because that sounds just like they're like, "Oh, you prey to rocks." It's like
technically, in a certain light, why not? We're just really specialized fish.
Exactly. We're fish that breathe air.
Yeah. Okay.
And okay, in a second, that's funny, the timing that I choose. I think she's like, I need to get a drink of water. So I'm just going to quickly send out one more love out to all the people who have sent out super chats to us, all of the people that have been sending us love, the channel membership, the Patreon at patreon.com/Amy Newman, all of this stuff. Davegar, thank you so very much. Yeah, we're about to switch into the open mic. I will also send it in just link form in case that was the paragraph was too much. There it is. And we already have the Sinister Porpoise. Speaking of things that eat fish, we have one backstage, although I'm fairly sure they are an alien. Or I'm sure, well, it's not that they were aliens. They were just way smarter than us because they spent all their time mucking about while we went to the moon, and we think that both of our species, respectively, are idiots. That wasn't as elegant as Douglas Adams. Go read Hitchhiker's Guide, goddammit. And all right, I will say, as we get Sinister in here, instead of the full screen, we're just going to have everyone join in because we have a special guest tonight. However, you still have whatever you'd like to say for your open statement, but it's going to naturally go into open conversation. We're going to try and keep it that way.
You'll get to see her accessories.
Exactly. We're still going to see her amazing fabulousness. And with that, Isaac, I really do want to thank you and continuing to stay with us as we are talking from Orthodox to Secularism. We are Skeptic and Ranting, and we are going into the... That's right, the open mic. What is up? Woo-hoo! I'm going to put you right on top so that we can see. But Sinister... we have been and are Skeptic and Ranting. We have Isaac here, and we're talking from Orthodoxy to Secularism. How are you? What are your thoughts or questions?
I am well. I have some questions related not to... I mean, I can't really... Hi, Athena. It's about what R and Ra needed for the Phylogeny Explorer project, and I'm just wondering, what is the equivalent of a GED in England?
Is that a high school diploma?
Yeah, it's the high school diploma equivalent.
So I think what we call A levels would be an equivalent. So you need a certain amount of A levels to get into university.
And one more comment, if you've done programming for a while, you've probably gotten a fairly decent amount of knowledge past pre-algebra already just by doing it, because there's a lot of math involved and you don't realize it.
Well, I do mostly front-end web development, and there's not much maths involved.
Listen, Just because you
Yeah.
make the website usable and pretty, don't take none of this from any of these databases, okay? You don't take none of it.
Well, all the Phylogeny Explorer project, we're doing some pretty cool stuff with data with
I
data
know.
science. But again,
Well,
I'm sure
I mean-
if I was more formally educated in mathematic thinking, I probably would be able to get my head around a lot of the concepts that I've been struggling with
is it more,
when it comes to the data science. But yeah.
is it more data science or web development?
So the Phylogeny Explorer project is mostly data science. The web development bit I can do by myself very easily. Trying to figure out how to take a real life thing like the tree of life, of a species, and the things about it, a real life thing that has properties and also has relationships, and how to represent that in data in a form that is both easy to retrieve and display to a user and editable. And yeah, if you change the name of something, that means you need to kind of affect its parents, its ancestors, and its children, because they refer to it in a certain way, and how you do that can be pretty complicated depending on what system you use. And
That's more like a database thing.
yeah. So we're actually doing something really cool. So the guy, the only other really we have one more volunteer who's like very active at the moment, and he worked for the American government for like 10 years as a data architect and things like that. So he knows a lot, and I'm learning a lot from him. And we started doing some very cool stuff recently with the we don't even have a database. We're just reading and writing directly from what would be an index. So we're trying to work towards having the system in place at a later date. But at the moment, we're just trying to work with let's just see what we can do with as quickly as possible. But it's pretty cool.
Well, the reason, I am actually working on my computer science degree right now.
Mm-hmm.
Just one more thing. If you wanted to learn algebra in a more formal manner, Khan Academy is a great place.
Yeah. I wish I had time to sit down and do a course, but yeah, I probably should. I guess at this point with maths, it's mental maths just makes me feel anxious, and maybe I just need to get into it a bit more.
The good news about computer science is it's not about getting the right answer. It's about knowing the math well enough to get the computer to get the right answer for you.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're not really dealing too much with, I guess you might say, eventually we're going to have to start looking into how do we handle data about when a species was alive. Because that could be, we could do some really cool stuff with that. Because if we have the data that this species, this animal lived at this time in this place, and this plant lived in this place at that time as well, that could be helpful for someone who's researching, well, what did Brachiosaurus eat? Well, look, these are the species of plants that were extant at the time that they were in the same part of the world. And maybe we don't have the evidence for it yet, but that might be something you might want to investigate. So that's what we want to be able to do. And dealing with dates and stats, length, minimal, min, max, medians, averages, all that stuff. Yeah, it's going to be a lot more maths coming in at that point.
It sounds like you're going to need a robust database.
Yeah, for sure. We want to use a graph database, which is the fancy stuff. But that's,
of course,
at the moment we're working very step by step.
And what languages are you using?
Everything is JavaScript.
Yeah. I prefer Python, but
yeah, especially for data science, Python is very good, as far as I know. And I don't know any Python, and all of our code is at the moment written in Node.js with JavaScript. So it makes it easier. The reason why we mostly chose JavaScript is because we want to have a strong volunteer community that can kind of come and go and learn and all that stuff. So making it as accessible as possible to volunteers is the main goal.
Well, depending what I'm doing over the summer,
Yeah.
I might be interested.
Oh, that'd
Depending
be
on what
awesome.
you need.
Yeah.
Maybe I can do it as in like an internship thing, since I'm also a substitute teacher and I don't work over the summer.
Yeah, that could be great. I'm sure I could learn a lot from you, and I could show you some stuff about JavaScript.
I know JavaScript, but it's when I took it as a course
It's weird.
years ago, it was a condensed course. So I've tried to learn some of it on my own. Like I've done a Newton's method calculator.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's...
And like the senior project class, we're working on a Wordle clone.
That'd be fun. One of the things about JavaScript, it's such a weird language for people that learn about logic in real life. You have like all A is B, therefore whatever. I can't even think in
If
that
A
way.
then B.
Yeah, like if a subset of something is, if something is a subset of something, then if something else is a subset of B, then it's also by definition a subset of A or whatever. Yeah.
Well,
So
look,
something like that.
most people who are good at computer programming and can handle it do have a basic understanding of discrete math.
Yeah.
Although when you get discrete structures, if you get there, you will hate that class with a passion. Ask Amy; she's probably taken a similar course.
Well, discrete math tends to be the math that they send you on for programmers anyway. They're like, this is what you're going to be doing when you are building programs. I wanted to actually say, Isaac, you are being so humble. Okay, hold on. You are a front end, as in you do HTML and CSS, but you also database. You also know JavaScript. Do you know PHP?
No.
I do.
I use
Okay.
JavaScript for front end development. So I use Java instead of having an HTML file and a CSS
But you're
file
so
and then
close.
a little bit of JavaScript
But if
to
they're
like
using
make it work. You actually can use JavaScript to build your HTML and your CSS.
but if they're using Node.js, they don't need to use PHP for backend.
Right. Yeah. I don't know PHP. Like I
But
feel like I'm
are-
very specific in what I know,
You're
and there's a lot of
one
things I don't
language
know.
away from being a front end and a back end developer.
Yeah, you can learn JavaScript and be both. Yeah,
Indeed.
that's one of the reasons why it's so popular now. You can't write a website in Python, I don't think.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you can. You can make. I've definitely seen like data sciencey things, like visualizations and stuff.
There's frameworks called Django and Flask, and a
Oh,
new
yeah,
one
yeah,
called PyScript.
Yeah. That's true.
Python-
There are those things. I'm saying like in general, like companies that are making like apps and.
See, but Python's one of those languages that, if you excuse my French, can go both ways, because you can use a Python on the web, but just like you were saying, most people use Python to make programs and install things.
Yeah.
And so...
Yeah. I think the main benefit of JavaScript is the browser uses JavaScript to run. So you can make websites with other languages like Python, PHP, Elm, but it's all going to be kind of turned into JavaScript. And when it's actually running in the browser,
I think
as far as I understand.
PHP will remain because of legacy code, because PHP was designed to be run on the server.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's running on the server and it just sends over what it needs, right? And yeah, you can do that now with JavaScript as well with the server-side rendering and all that cool stuff.
PHP is often the liaison between kind of the front end pretty and the form and the actual database and getting it back.
Well, PHP is web Perl.
Also, sending love, Carly, and everyone out there. We are Skeptic and Ranting on almost anything, science, technology, philosophy, but we have Isaac on for orthodoxy to secularism.
And
The open mic always kind of becomes... I thought it was
nerdy.
a lovely conversation, though.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
And one more
I
thing,
wanted to bring up this meme that is maybe make it a bit more funny for other people. So in JavaScript, I mean, I only know JavaScript really, and I really like JavaScript. I also appreciate how weird other languages, people that study other languages find it. And there is this meme of where, have you ever seen a diagram to show what the Trinity is in Christianity, what it means?
Oh,
And they'll have like the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost in a triangle.
Yeah.
And then they'll be
I'm
like,
familiar with it.
you know, the Father, the Son is God, but the Father is not the Son, and you know what I mean?
The
So it's
Father
like a
is
sort of
not the Son, the Father is not it,
Yeah.
but they're all God.
Yeah. So there's God in the middle, and then it's like Father is not. So with JavaScript, you can make the same thing, and it's like 0 is false, but it's not. Like 0 is a string, and like it's very confusing, and it's like it's almost as confusing as the Trinity, if not more.
And I just need to bring this up because the pronunciation was painful. It's Rumspringa.
Rumspringa.
That sounds like
Not
either
Rumspringa?
a beer or something you do after you drank a lot of beer. But okay,
That's
That
something
is-
I think a lot of people would who speak English as a first language might appreciate. Is something I discovered, which is because in English we use vowels in a very interesting way. Most other languages do not use that in the same way that we do, and most other languages have vowels that are more similar to each other than they are to English, in a sense. So when you are reading any language other than English, there are certain rules that you should, or like certain things about English that you should forget, and a lot of it is to do with the vowel sounds. So when you see a U in a foreign word, it is almost never going to be pronounced U or U. It's almost always going to be U. And the letter O is always going to be O. And A. It's like A, O, E, O. You don't really have the English long vowels. They're just not as common. So if someone throws at you Klingon or, black speech or from Lord of the Rings, Mordor, or a foreign language, just don't pronounce it as if it's English. Just close your vowels, shorten your vowels, and you're going to be a lot more accurate. And it's like a general rule. I find that's really helpful. We were on Aaron Ra's show, and someone sent like pronounce this, and it was one ring to rule them all in the speech of Mordor. And I was able to read it almost completely accurately because it just had to follow those rules of short vowels, KH is ch, things like that. And I think if people looked at it that way, they'd be able to feel a bit more confident reading foreign words.
If you heard it in a hillbilly accent or a redneck accent.
We do that a lot on the Mormon show. Tomer will read the Book of Mormon in his reformed Egyptian accent.
Sorry.
Oh, there we go.
Ex-Mormon.
Oh, you're ex-Mormon. Do you watch the Joseph's Myth show?
Briefly, I don't watch it a lot just because it's.
Oh yeah, can imagine.
It's like
for me, it's just like, what the hell?
I refer to Mormons as Jesus in space. Probably not accurate, but
that sounds almost Paulian. Paul. I don't know what the word is. Pavlovian.
Pavlovian.
What's like the adjective for Paul? Oh yeah, it's Pauline. Yeah, like Pauline epistles. Yeah, it sounds Pauline. Pauline.
Paul is another one. The two people I can blame Christianity for.
Oh, for sure.
The Jews, because unfortunately they're like, hey, let's just take like the Old Testament. And then Paul, who just, I don't know how he got a vision of a dead guy 50 years later. But he seems to have created a religion. Thank you, Paul. No, they're looking at me, the Christians, and like, that is blasphemy. You're right. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, that's true. learning programming is not about memorization and learning more and more stuff. It's being good at Googling.
Yes, well, it is just having the willingness to allow yourself to mess up. Because the program is going to basically be broken over and over and over and over and over, and then it works. And then you're like, oh, I just got to move on to the next step. And that doesn't work either. And so you go,
and that's the worst feeling when it works and you don't know why.
It is.
The way you learn to program is the way math should be taught.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, I think, just like you were saying before, I think that the only time that math has ever been fun to me, still to this day, because I don't hate it, I don't love it, it's math, but the only time it's ever been fun is in programming. Because in programming, it's the only time that databasing is there. Because when I think of a database to me, I think of RPGs and role-playing games. Most people probably don't tie those two things together. However, because of that, makes databasing fun. I'm like, health points.
The most fun I've had was math is when I tried making a Mario clone. And I had to like calculate the gravity and stuff so that when you pressed up, the velocity would increase, and then it would, that was interesting.
Yeah,
but that was a long time ago.
And I plan to be teaching some of that stuff coming soon. I am so excited.
Can you teach how rockets work in space?
Yes, I could teach it. Oh, and unfortunately, I've been having many talks with flat earthers. First of all, yes, we can't have an accurate physics engine. Sending love randomly to the Havoc's physics engine, which is probably old at this point. I'm dating myself, and the Unreal Engine and Unity. Everyone should check out Unity because it's free. Gosh darn it! And they used to use JavaScript. Sad face.
Have they ever fixed their tutorials?
Oh my, that is a good
Unity.
I'd probably shout out to either Khan or YouTube Academy, like you were saying. Yeah, because YouTube is open source, and so the support for it is kind of like...
You mean Unity, right?
I've never been on Reddit, but I imagine their support page is like Reddit. And so good luck. I'm sure you'll get support. Keep on upvoting it.
Because if YouTube was open source, I'm sure people would be tweaking that content selection algorithm.
But listen, Unity is free, ladies and gentlemen. It's a game engine that so many games on Steam are making money for. And here, we're about to bring on Beamsy.
Also, DNA is not a code. I don't care who says that.
Yes, DNA is not code. Fuck. Yeah, even if it looks pretty.
You triggered this portrait, though. Because
it's very pretty. Mm-hmm. Well, it looks quite tasty. It looks a bit like an Oreo.
Yes, it's a naturally occurring chemical that just happens.
If you want to prove me wrong, show me a paper that says DNA is Turing complete. Then I'll believe you.
What happens is we use analogies to teach people, but then people take those analogies and they say, look, it is the thing that you are analogizing. It's like a code because it has these letters and it's doing these things, but it's not like they have a choice. It's not like we're going, hey, we want our arm to be this long. It's just doing what it is because they're chemicals. And it's not like there's a comment section in our body.
Nor does DNA process data.
Yeah, I need to look into that a bit more, like how DNA really works. So I can really see, like, why is it even... I don't even see why it's connected to code. Because as far as I understand, DNA is just like physical proteins that like do physical things. I don't really get how it's encoded.
The best analogy I can come up with is it's kind of how an assembly language
works. Is a jelly mold code?
Where you have like each gene does a small number of genes do one thing, and more. But it's not a perfect analogy, and it's like, and a lot of people get confused because DNA computing exists.
Right.
But I'm sure.
Yes. We're about to get Beamsy on. Just sending love because now I see
Havoc
people just
engine.
tagging me. I see that's the reification fallacy. And we are going to bring on Beamsy, the geologist, smeologist with the assologist. I somehow got that to rhyme. I'm impressed. We are Skeptic and Ranting. We have been talking from orthodoxy to secularism. We're here with Isaac. Welcome on board the panel, Beamsy. What are your thoughts, questions?
I guess you haven't really spoken much in French when you talk about the extended vowels.
Oh,
They're
yeah,
really bad
definitely
with
not.
it. They're really bad with the extended vowels.
Yeah, that thing I said about like a lot of languages can be read using short vowels and stuff. Like that does not apply to French.
Oui.
I always thought of French as being a waste of time, but
when speaking French,
I am British, so
I was just flirting.
Wir sind über Frankreich.
German is very much will fall into what you design, but Italian again, they fall into the extended vowels.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You see a divide within the Latin language. Some languages went for the extended vowels and some didn't.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I definitely agree that there's probably there's so many exceptions, but it's when I see Americans trying to read foreign words, they kind of default to like an English system, and I think it's just that's kind of the you kind of recognize, if you start learning more about foreign languages, be able to be like, oh, that's actually VIC, that's probably pronounced Vich because it's Slavic or something like that. But like basic, I would say, like forget about English vowels, how they work, and that might help you read a foreign language a bit more accurate. Starting, it's just a heuristic that I like. I'm sure it's not scientifically like perfectly valid in every way, but yeah.
It's just the issue. Like I said, there is a divide within the Latin languages. One went one way, one went the other. So that's why it works in some cases. But then you also get to languages like the South American languages and the African languages. They're more visceral and throatal. That's why they can actually be read with the shorter vowels.
Yeah, and also like Japanese and Korean and Chinese and Mandarin, whatever. Like you're I mean, Chinese, the way it's written in English can be really weird because those are like ancient systems that didn't necessarily think about, the way that we pronounce things in English in a modern way. So it's just like historically we write Chinese and English letters in a certain way, and you have to learn that as well. You have to learn how to read Chinese in English, which I think is silly.
Yeah, it doesn't quite work.
Whether you're using pinyin or there's like some other systems or whatever, it's a bit silly. But like Japanese, you can write Japanese in only one way in English, and you can read it. You have to know certain wonky things about the language, like how the U sound is not very strong at all, or ooh, whatever. Like, and sometimes it's not pronounced at all at the end of a word. And okay, but yeah, it's
more of an E sound than anything else.
Yeah. No, like if you have like mas, it's actually written masu, but you don't read it masu. You just say, most people just say mas, and that's cool. So yeah, I mean it's just a general heuristic, and I find it really helpful, and I think people might as well. But yeah, definitely. There's so many languages it doesn't apply to, and if you find a language interesting, learn how to read it. It can be very interesting. I mean, yes, there are other scripts as well, and that can be interesting to learn, like how to read Cyrillic and Greek, and even Arabic or Hebrew can be a very interesting endeavor. Korean, the script that they use is really logical and interesting in that way. Is an invented script, and like they thought about it, and they're like, what should a language look like? And yeah, pretty interesting. Yeah, an evolution of language is very interesting as well, and it's very analogous to biological evolution in a lot of ways.
No, you used the E word.
Oh no. Yeah, Amy, you mentioned the L word earlier, and I don't know what that is.
Say that again, the L word.
I don't know what that is. What is the L word?
Now I'm trying to...
Oh, is it like
linguistics. It was because that theists never are able to explain things like heaven or hell. They are never able to...
Oh, logistics. That's it.
Because once you start actually going into... Yeah. Well, once you actually having to say, well, hey, what are the angels doing on Tuesday at 7 p.m.? They're like, well, we're checking the chart and it's everything, forever, at all times. Oh, good answer.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I do remember you saying logistics and me being like, oh, that's it. But then I forgot.
And that happens in every religion on every issue. There's some weird things that happen where like the Muslims are like the 7th layer of hell. You're like, there's 7 layers of hell. How is there a worse layer at hell? Is there like, do you have to buy tickets? And there's like, damn it, I hate it. Just like at the airport, I'm always the last boarding group.
My biggest question in Christian logistics would be, why is Satan the ruler of hell? Why is he punishing you?
Two things. He would either be God's bitch boy, in which case he's really a good person. He's really just a regular angel like all the rest. Or he should be like on our side. He should be rallying the party. We're his boys and gals. We're his peeps. Why would he be torturing us? Makes no sense. One or the other, both for silly.
It really depends on who you speak to. Like if you speak to Luciferians, Lucifer is the actual hero of the story.
Oh, that makes sense to me. I always tell Christians that if you can convince me that the Christian God is real, you'll make me a theist, but I'm not sure you'll get me on your team. I'm pretty sure I know.
I can't remember which early Christian sect it is, if it's Gnosticism or Arianism or whatever, but there is like the idea that, I think it's Gnosticism, that the God of the Bible, like the Old Testament, is the devil, and like...
Oh, the demiurge, that's Gnosticism.
Yeah, so like the God of the Old Testament is the demiurge, and then Jesus is like the real God or whatever. It's very interesting in that perspective. I don't know exactly if they flip positions, but I guess you would have to think about it in that sense as well. Like, what would happen in such a case? Like, you know, if the demiurge wrote the Old Testament and he's representing Jesus as the devil, which doesn't really come up that often at all anyway in the Old Testament, then does that mean that the devil in the New Testament is the is a super devil? Yeah, it's interesting.
Regardless, he's still rather horny.
Listen, he's my spirit brother. He's going the wrong way. Let him be.
Oh God, in Mormonism, they're just bros. Yeah, like it's an idea.
There are a lot of Mormon beliefs that they don't talk about anymore.
Oh yeah, it's a secret belief. Yeah, in Judaism, the devil is well, there's no such thing as the devil, but Satan is just an angel, and he doesn't have free will. He's just the guy who stands against you when you kind of die and get judged or whatever. And it might be his job as well to like influence you to sin or whatever, but it's only to test you or whatever. Which, whatever.
Also, can I just point out how little sense that punishing the snake makes in Christianity? It makes sense under Judaism. It makes under lore. Like as in the snake everything up. and so we're gonna punish snakes. It's not fair to other snakes, but like at least it makes sense. Now the snake doesn't exist. But okay, but let's go forward into Christianity. Who was the snake?
Do they actually believe it's the devil?
They believe it was the devil, and so
some do, some
but now some have started believing that it's Lilith.
Oh,
and I never got that. I think it's because Lilith got confused with there was a Roman goddess or something that had a snake body, and they have a similar story, like they kill children or something, so they got mixed up, and then it's like, oh, Lilith has a snake body. Oh, she's the snake in the garden or something like that.
That's an older Christian idea, not a modern one.
Yeah, it's not a modern. It's not a modern
I hear
idea.
Lilith more.
I thought Lilith wasn't even that Christian.
More Gnostics, even though it was technically speaking, I think she was the first. If you go,
Marcionism, yeah. Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Makes it sound a little bit more gothic and badass because Eve was a little bit, she got run over.
Well, originally Lilith was Adam's first wife, who was created at the same time with him within the Jewish tradition, and she actually is more the representation of a succubus. Yeah, and she was the representation of a succubus. That's where she comes from. That's why
like I said, way cooler.
Yeah, so she was created equal, like it says in the Bible. It comes from the discrepancy between the chapter 1 and chapter 2, I think it is. So in chapter 1 it says God created man and woman, he created them or something like that. And then chapter 2 it says he created man and he put him in the garden and blah blah blah. And then he put him to sleep and took a rib out. So it's like, so did he create them at the same time, or did he create man first and then woman was made from a rib? So there was like a tradition of like, oh, well, first he created Adam and Lilith back to back, a hermaphrodite, and then split them up, and then Lilith refused to be subservient or to be the bottom, literally, and then God gave him Eve, and Lilith went off to become the queen of the demons or something.
So a happy ending. That's what I like.
But then she's also given the role of killing newborns and stuff out of revenge.
Oh, so she has to take after her father, just like that. That's terrible.
But that might have been invented by people who were interested in selling amulets.
That's right. Lilith doesn't kill babies.
Here's an amulet to protect your baby from Lilith.
Okay, here's a question then. Does that make Lilith the first dominatrix?
Oh my. I want to vote yes. I
like the idea of that she didn't want to sub to Adam, so she went off and dominated the like Asmodeus and stuff, like, prince of the demons, and took over. I like that. That's my headcanon.
Once again, I consider this an academic podcast.
Well, one thing I really don't get is they're all for punishing the snake, but as soon as you start talking about masturbation, they just go, no, you can't touch that snake.
Oh no, it makes sense. They're becoming into chastity play. I also just want to send love out. Okay, this is a personal shill. Okay, in my story about angels coming out year or so, there are both angels, humans without wings because they evolved, and plant people with jetpacks. So look forward to more jetpacks. Mostly because Loki promised us more jet skis, and we never got more jet skis. And so, yes.
Did Loki promise that? Disney promised a love story between Mobius and his jet ski. And we never got that. God. Listen, Disney, if you're watching this, the next season of Loki has to be all about the budding romance between Mobius and his new jet ski.
Wow. Very specifically, or we'll riot. Just kidding. I'm from Philly. We riot if we like you or not. We boo if we like you or not. I like me. We were this close. But I send love to Xerxes, who won. I also send love to, what is the guy with the mustache? James. This is your. He's trying. Donovan McNabb. Am I getting it right? There's a guy who's going to have a movie made out of him. So look forward to that, people who like sports. Hold on. This is the time of the podcast. That's what I get for not knowing people's names. I know people by their, generally speaking, by which Marvel or DC movie they're in. But we are actually going to go on for like 25 more minutes. And so if you want to join the panel, now is the time to do so, especially if you're a creationist. Though I've been trying not to be spicy. Sometimes I get really spicy and I send our streams into like the PNR and the politics and the atheist graveyard. But like, let's just say them and, well, most of us here would be the ones shooting at the Nazis at most of the video games. Let's just say that. Hey, but I love you, all of you out there. I love you all.
As someone who's Pennsylvania Dutch, I have a very specific beat with those people. It's like, you were the reasons I did not learn the Pennsylvania Dutch dialect.
That's fine. Wolfenstein 3D, that's a good one.
And the reason that we're talking about the French, once again, why the French do not speak German. Doesn't it feel good? It feels
good. Well, I'm going to send you something rather inappropriate, Sinister, and I think you're going to enjoy it.
Please don't make it be about LPP.
No.
Okay. I would rather forget he exists right now.
LPP.
Oh. Logical, probable, plausible.
Oh, okay.
I'll bring up this conundrum, even though I've got
little PP, as we colloquially call him.
What?
Can I tell you the interesting conundrum? I don't want to show Mustache Man on screen for TOS reasons. But the question is, would you shoot him? First of all, the only thing that he accomplished was shooting himself. But the reason, this is why you don't want to mess with time travel, okay? This is like bigger picture stuff, okay? The reason that a lot of the board got moved around was because of the end of that. So it makes things awkward because you don't know who in the future you will then kill. Yeah, time travel. I guess what the Avengers taught me is don't mess with time travel.
Yeah. Theoretically, I like the idea if you could have killed Hitler, somebody else would have just taken his place, and that somebody else might have been actually a better tactician. They might have actually done better in the war. You never know.
That's true. He's stuck as a wartime commander. Well, the problem is we want to get rid of him. We don't want to make the future bad in any way.
It's like the conundrum that Saddam Hussein is not a great guy. He's not a humanitarian, but then you take him out, and then what happens after he's gone? You know.
Yeah,
also,
other people have. No one's going to miss him, I'm sure.
No, well, like I said, the only thing he did right was probably that one thing that we're actually asking about. History.
World War I also contributed that too, because Americans, when we didn't like the French, remember we called them freedom fries?
Well, we do technically go to war every time that we don't say Merry Christmas and during December. I'm pretty sure. Though they've relented on that because they've gone into all sorts of other stuff. Now they're into anti-vaccine. Now they're into all sorts of other fun subjects, which we should be doing more
Listen,
podcasts on.
I just think it's sad that Ben Shapiro is such a self-hating trans man.
I just think, James, am I allowed to say it? My once a podcast?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just think that he just needs to like get like a big cup of water and just him and his wife. He could figure this out, or just like roses, chocolate, whatever she's into. I stand by it, or I will stand by the last thing is that the available threesome. I'm not saying either of them aren't cute. And that's the last we'll say of that.
You'd be down for a threesome with Ben Shapiro and his wife.
Just don't talk about... Well, actually, if he did start talking about either of those two subjects, I'd probably just start debating. I say don't talk about those things, but that's basically all we do.
How do you know the threesome wouldn't be between him, Tucker Carlson, and Matt Walsh?
Oh, my.
Thank you for that. I'm not sleeping tonight.
Or whoever Ket Hoven and his new boyfriend's going to be in jail. Da, da. I'll keep on sending into the lovosphere. We are Skeptic and Ranting. We have Isaac here from Orthodox to Secularism. It is a good topic to talk about from something so horrible, because James and I consider ourselves anti-theist in the way that we want to get rid of theism, and yet I think the person, his partner, his family, my family, everyone that I love, they're all theists. And so the question is a very hard tightrope, is how do you get rid of theism without being evil, doing wrong? And my answer to that, and I'll ask, yeah, well, it's time for you triggered my. I guess my answer generally for that is through debate, dialogue, and discourse. But does anyone else, including Isaac, do you have any answer? Because it is kind of a tightrope to walk as a secular Jew, because you want to get the tradition, you want to bond with family. Some of the holidays are fun and you want to have a good time. And so how do you walk that tightrope with also being a skeptic and being secular?
Yeah, it's very difficult. Like I think, my family, like people, the Jewish people that I know are quite happy in the way they are. But I also have, 21, 22 nieces and nephews. And
Woohoo!
They're being brought up in like the way that their parents think is right. And in a sense, that's fine. But at the same time, I feel like, I was in that position. I know that I wasn't given the same opportunities that I would want my nephews and nieces to have as well. So it's definitely like, it's a fine line between like, here is a culture, it works for them, they're not hurting anyone in general.
Can I
but
just
then there are
say,
some specific things that are like problematic.
Finish your point.
Yeah.
I just couldn't help it. I was waiting when you said 22. I was like, oh my goodness. Because I have been reflecting so much. My niece and nephew have just, one is able to drink and the other will soon be able to be legal to drink. And I remember when both of them were born. And so to me, that is like
yeah. That hits home about how much time has passed.
Exactly. And so that is kind of if you want to talk about that at all, because it sounds like you have I was going to say we sometimes have our family and extended family. You have a family that's extended, which is amazing. But if you want to, I didn't want to interrupt your thought, and so if you wanted to finish whatever you were talking about, and talk about that as well.
I mean, that was the main thing, really. It's just, how practical can I be about how I influence my family and the community? For me, it's like practical things. So, like, I know that people who grew up the same way I do don't have necessarily the same opportunities to get out into the workforce, for example. So that's like a very practical thing. Like, I want to maybe try and help, like try and get like a programming course or something that's catered to the community and is sensitive to their specific issues, like men and women being separate or something, which I really don't want to. It's one of those things I don't want to budge on, but I feel like I can't do anything about that. And yeah, but I think it's something that it's getting better all the time. And I'm saying, like, it's not as toxic as it used to be.
Sure. I think,
although in some places I've seen there's a lot of toxicity in the religious Jewish community, but you could almost say they're evangelical Jews at this point. It's more politics than it is how.
I think the more fundamentalist, the more Orthodox that you go, the more they seem to align and have similar characteristics with the evangelicals, the fundamentalists of Islam, the Dawaists.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I still do make this joke, is I tend to like the Muslims who are wearing hijabs but burning their bras, because I'm like, this makes no sense via the Quran, but they're lovely human beings and they are fighting for freedom, and they're not, this isn't the religion that's forced on them. This is their own interpretation. And from it, you get the more hippy-dippy versions of all the religions that we, I think, get. And you find it so much in secular Judaism.
Like Rashida Tlaib says her Allah is a woman. She's a practicing Muslim, but she's got her own version of it.
Well, I don't want to dox them. I don't even think I could if I want to. But I recently have spent time with a trans man who we were at a party and they were drinking and it was a good time. I don't know if they were against
male trans.
Yes, they don't get that much.
They don't get as much focus
news because very specifically the fundamentalists don't like the male to female. I was trying to think of a joke and then I ended up just explaining it. They don't like the feminine one's version.
I don't think they like
the English that comes out of my mouth.
They hate the male to female more.
But that's why I joke. We're always like, how early should they allow hormones? And our answer tends to be, it should be in the womb. And only the girl one, because that's the cooties one. Like, no testosterone. It has to be only estrogen.
I mean, if a woman's thinking about getting pregnant, she should probably start taking the hormones even before conception.
Even before. Exactly. If you're thinking about being pregnant, you should just be taking female hormones. Very specifically.
Right.
Anyway,
why cooties?
I want to say I don't think it works that way, but
yes, it does.
Anyone's easily able to make
probably on that.
Anyone here is able to make hormones quite quickly. Just don't pay them.
Also, if you're the TOS, we're saying do the opposite. It's opposite day, except for anything when we're talking about creationism.
All right. Well, that joke aside, have you ever considered going on Neil the 604 Atheist channel, Isaac?
Yes, you absolutely should.
I don't know what say it again? The Neil?
Oh, he's a great guy.
Atheist. I've been on it.
Yeah,
I have too. Neil is a fantastic guy. To me, he seems like a laid-back biker kind of dude, and he is just a warm mensch, and so he's a good guy. And he does.
I think you mentioned
his shtick, if I can fit as much Yiddish in as I can, is that he interviews atheists on their coming out experience, and almost like we're doing now. And he kind of has a whole show dedicated to this.
Wow.
So this is our show dedicated to talking about experience and expertise. But you know what I mean, sending so much love. Neil's amazing. And he was online. He was on some. He wasn't on the ACA. He was on the line with R and Ra. I think within this week. I think Neil was on. So sending
Neil
love
with Aaron on the line.
I do believe so. I think, and it was even recently because I love the line. I love the Transatlantic, sending love to Katie and Arden, sending love to Jimmy, who is an amazing producer. I just have a thing for producers. Gizmo and I they make us rub us the right way, as well as Peter. Peter, gonna go for it.
Yeah. So Jimmy was like, he
went for it.
Nowadays, because of like the attention that they get, he doesn't want to bring on people who don't have like an online presence already, because people might start harassing me or something like that, which is a very fair.
Can I tell you very specifically? Like I said, I am probably not a mod, but I am. It's just been a weird time the past few years. Like, here, let me tell you my experience, and we'll do the last 10 minutes, and everyone can get their final questions out for Isaac. I was, like, so sheltered, okay? Amazingly sheltered. My parents gave me an amazing life that I should probably spend the rest of my life giving back for. But, like, they didn't tell me anything. I had to learn. I went onto a board called 4chan. Not known for being very friendly to, let's say, minorities. And so I didn't know what Ashkenazi was. And they're like, you're this, you're this, you're this. And I went back to my mother and I'm like, are we Ashkenazi? And she went, Ashkenazi. We are that. I'm like, what do you mean we are that? I'm like 20. When were you going to tell me this? And so I've kind of had this weird, like, forever battle with these types of people. I have become the ultimate of what they hate. Like, I am the race mixing, gay marriage pushing, globalist connecting. I'm a producer. I like all of the things that they hate. I'm like, sounds pretty good. I like it. I'll take more of that. And it is just, it is. And it is this weird thing in that I have kind of been defined by my enemies. Though they're not my enemies. My mother would not let me use the word hate. I will continue to say that. She would say dislike. And I don't know. It was just this very weird in that I don't know if it was because I'm very sheltered. And so maybe I didn't know of these people even before. Maybe it was the internet. I think we're in like this weird Wild West in like everyone suddenly has access to the internet, but we don't know what good sources are. And so I have to have arguments about who the real, and I'm like, you know what? You talk with your teacher about it. They will solve that question for you like fast. And so,
well,
yeah.
No, they won't.
American education system is...
Well, that too.
Trust me, they won't.
And I guess I'm handing off a weird bow because it's just a weird time because I want to combat that. I get scared that these people that I talk to will gain control or do something again. Like I won't say any things, but like a specific January wasn't. And so I just, how do you? I guess here's what I'm gonna put it as nose on the question. How do we, as atheists, people who aren't even that big fans of theism, even secular Jews, how do we combat anti-Semitism?
I I mean, it's one of these things that are like, it's so easy to find stuff that makes you, you know, if you have like an anti-Semitic idea or whatever, it's so easy to find something that confirms that for you. And it's, you know, Jews are like, what, 15 million in the entire world? Tiny minority. I mean, overrepresented in certain places, like this show. Or maybe atheism in general, but...
And can I just point out, I've thought about this a lot. It's like, they're like, why do Jews go into this, and you look at the industries, and I'm like, oh, I know why. Those are the degrees I went in because they're fun. They're like, why do all the Jews go into video game design and producing movies? And it's like, well, have you tried producing or making video games or like all of the things that they try to go into? It's like, I don't think there's a massive conspiracy to be like, oh, we need to have here and from the Illuminati and from the space lasers and space lizards who have lasers. I think the Occam's razor is just like, hey, wouldn't you rather be in marketing than... I wish all of the robots were doing concrete work. Let me put this out there. I wish that all of the people, all humans, were able to do lots of fun jobs. But speaking of which, don't you want to do the fun jobs?
All I'm going to say about conspiracy theorists is, listen, if you want me to hate the same people you do, stop making them sound so awesome. Come on, Jewish space lasers was awesome.
Yeah, apparently in like in the Far East, like Jewish conspiracy, like stereotypes and stuff are like got passed along, but they didn't realize that they were supposed to be bad. So they're like, yeah, Jews control like the TV industry and or whatever, and they're like, that's cool, we want to do that.
Let me guess, you are unfamiliar, and there is no reason you should be, with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Of course I know who that is.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
The thing is, what you guys think of as normal in America is national TV in the UK.
I'm so sorry.
We all heard about a 6-year-old shooting their teacher before anyone, it seems, in America knew about it. It was on national TV in the UK, and you guys didn't even hear about it. And it was like, okay.
Oh, I heard about it.
Yeah. No, I'm sure.
But
it's
the lay
Florida,
audience. Oh no, but you're saying but generally the lay audience. No, I mean the George Carlin quote. I love Americans, and you know, I will during 4th of July. I will eat cake on top of a red flag. But Georgie would just remind all of us: just take your average American. Okay, do you have them in your head right now? You're thinking about them? Cool, good.
Half of all America are more stupid than that guy.
Right there. And so, unfortunately, we just need to lift the bar, maybe a little bit high. We might need to teach. I forget. Once again, I don't know which comedian said this, but we may need to treat our teachers like rock stars instead of, you know. I looked at the Kardashians. Who is watching it? Because first of all, it wasn't rated well by the critics, and it wasn't rated well by the people. That pains me. So which one of you fuckers are watching it? That's all I'm saying. You're making this system worse.
Listen,
just the media's the thing. I think the media created it and sustained it.
As the situation in East Palestine proves, everyone loves a good train wreck.
Well, I will say, there are certain shows that you watch just because you can't pull your eyeballs, and they are terrible, and you kind of almost watch them because they're terrible. And so that is what I am going to assume is happening. But now we are going to eventually segue. It is like the last 5 minutes, and we are going into outros. on From Orthodox to Secularism. We've been here with Isaac, who has been on the amazing and wonderful, a frequent guest on R&Ra. So you should be checking him out. And you should be checking him out when he comes on to check our Philomogamy challenge. And because that seems to trigger the... Yeah, just a final word before we go. Why do you think the creationism movement either is so strong in America, is so strong sometimes globally? Why do you think that it resonates like it does?
It's a good question. I mean, with Christianity, it's, Christianity in America is a very religious country, and so if you identify as a Christian or identify as a Republican or an American or whatever you think that means, you might think that, if you identify as this thing, then you have to believe certain things as part of that identity. And if you think that being an American, being a Republican, being a Christian means that you need to be a creationist and against this and all of that and believe certain things, then it's going to become very common, because it's an identity and people want to be part of a group, and they don't want to be alone. So, I want to be part of the Republicans. I need to believe what they believe. People are scared. So,
and okay, yeah. I believe that I'm looking indoctrination, that as well. I would say it is that community. The sad thing about it is that the community, things like that, is like the one almost good thing that religion has, I sometimes think, and it always comes with a bitter-edged sword, because sure, it's nice to be in the in-group until you're not anymore. And then, yeah,
that's it.
And all right, we are all going to go into outros. And since Isaac, this is your first time, we all get full screened and get to shill for whatever you got. I know this has been multi-layered, and it has been a long one I would say for most interviews. They're like an interview, an hour and a half, and yet it was always running on Amy time. Unfortunately, Amy time should not be a thing. It should not exist. Unfortunately,
A theory of time.
Exactly. There's the A and B theory of time and the Amy theory of time. And that is when you see an object in motion, assume it will get to you eventually. Very similar, kind of like the others. And we are going in the opposite that we went, which is Beamsy, Sinister, and then Isaac. Oh, is there something you want to show?
No, we're waving.
Oh, got you. I would say that's a blonde moment. I guess I just did. We are going into outros now. I'm waving. It has been Skeptic and Ranting. Isaac from Orthodox to Secularism. Woo-hoo! That's right. We are proud of the LGBTQ. What does that mean? Because it triggers them. We're proud of being ourselves. Fundies, you should check that out. Woo! What is up? The ocean with the motion. Beamsy. We have been Skeptic and Ranting. We've had Isaac here talking about From Orthodox to Secularism, along with some multitude of subjects. I would ask what you got going on, but once again, we see it on screen. So what's your final thought?
No, that was more an aspect. Everyone else was waving, so I had to join in.
Okay. Oh, my God.
The dad joke just hit me in the face. All right.
At least it was a dad joke and not something else, but we won't go there.
Now you're just teasing me.
Oh, no, that's what the thing. Sorry, we went too far there.
And now I'm going to get recommended even more videos about shipwrecks.
Oh my.
Oh my.
Is that what you thought the algorithm was going to start recommending you? Okay. But Beamsy, I guess sending love and waving. And with that, and also worship Dadass, his one true religion.
I think we're showing the wave on the screen at the moment.
What's going
Yes.
on? It's
okay.
resolution, out resolution. Ha ha!
There you go.
And the sinister porpoise, the porpoise you want to think of when we're talking about sinister porpoises. I hope you had a good time on Skeptic and Ranting from Orthodox to Secularism, where we had Isaac come on, as well as a whole bunch of different subject fun. What you got going on, and what are your final thoughts?
Well, I'm finishing up my second to last semester in a couple more weeks here by May, but close enough. I have a video planned as soon as I can get time to work on it about the math you'll need to study computer science. Should be a relatively short one. And then if I have some extra time, we'll do one on George Bull. Remember, everyone, be excellent to each other, and so long, and thanks for all the fish.
Woo-hoo! Thank you so very much, Sinister. And remember, everyone, that you get bonus points the more accessories, not only on the stream, but in life. That's just doing a PSA.
Say hi to Athena back there resting herself.
Gosh, yeah. And I mean that. Just that doesn't matter, accessories. Anyway, we are going to go then to our headliner of the night. Oh no. Trying to think. Yeah, actually, you know what? Stay back for just 1 second, Isaac. I want to get we're gonna try just 1 second. We're gonna get two people on before you. It's like the TARDIS. It's gonna be bigger on the inside. Beamsy, did you have any other relevant things to say?
I actually had something relevant to say rather than just being silly. You'll find that a lot of things when it comes to Orthodox, they're there because it's explained things easier than it does to actually research and understand something. That creates a comfort, and then the social aspect also comes into it. It's multiple things that hit people from early age and from a communal aspect. It's why it's both so difficult to notice and so insidious. And so different, and it's painful to actually go from an easy explanation to an explanation that needs 4 or 5 hours to give just the entrance level of understanding to it.
Thank you so.
Yeah, that's very true.
Thank you so very much, Beamsy. Lovely having you on.
Oh, good.
And we are actually. I'm going to get James up on here. I'm going to do a quick shill, and then we're going to have Isaac as our headliner. He is our special guest host. And so, James, just sending love out there. What do you got going on in the future?
Well, not a whole lot. Just want to thank Isaac for coming on. Thank everybody for being a part of the stream. It was, I think everybody learned a little something today. Imagine that. Come on the stream and actually walk away learning something, gain a new perspective, something you didn't know before. And so thank you for that, Isaac. Thank you for coming and sharing your insights. And we'll be back this weekend. We've got a show coming up, so stay tuned.
Woohoo! And all right, before we get our headliner, I just want to remind everybody that if you are a Twitch subscriber, if you are a channel member or a Patreon, you get access to We Talk Skeptic to Me, where we will allow you to do a show where you share your experience or expertise with the community. However, if you would like to be produced by someone who is related to, I want to say Jewish lasers. I guess they would be Jewish lasers. But if you would like to get a producer with someone not about atheism or about atheism, whatever you would like to, basket weaving, I'm into it. We just had a new person that I'm working with, as well as a new launch just a week or so ago. And so it has been fantastic, a lot of fun. And I'm looking to help anyone, no matter what your budget is. And all right, enough about me, because I do, unfortunately, like my mother, have the gift of gab. But there was someone nice enough to use this again. A true mensch. Isaac, we have been skeptic and ranting from orthodoxy to secularism. You were kind enough to come and give us your story. And so we want to know, what do you got going on? And of course, what are your final thoughts about anything that we have been talking about tonight?
Yeah, so as mentioned earlier, I've put a Facebook link in, Amy's posted it in the chat, the Phylogeny Explorer Project Facebook group. There's quite some interesting discussions on there about phylogeny and evolution stuff, but it's mostly a place to kind of keep on top of what's happening with the project, and a good way to get in contact with everyone that's on the team. And if you are interested in helping with the actual development, yeah, if you get on the group, you can just post or message someone that you recognize in the like I'm on the group, so you can always just message me directly as well. Yeah, and also come watch tomorrow, Saturday, not tomorrow, Saturday. I think it's 5 GMT, 5 UTC. The R&R Blasphemous Bible podcast, which is a great show. I'll be happy to have you there as well.
And I also want to just frame it, because I think I cut you off mid-sentence and we jumped ship. Let's get to the phylogeny challenge and R&R, which I'm about to say.
Yeah.
But your journey, I guess, the ending to from Orthodox to secularism, it sounds like you have gone on a hero's journey of yourself. What got you there?
Yeah, so as I think it was Beamsy was saying, when you're in a community, there's a lot of indoctrination and to stay in the community, and it's the easier choice. And sometimes, breaking down what you believe and why can be very difficult, and especially if that means that because of that you can't stay within that community that you grew up with. It can be very difficult, but in the long term, it's always worth it to be true to yourself. Of course, do things when you're ready and when you're able to. But yeah, I mean, the decisions I regret the most are the ones I didn't make myself. They're the ones that were made for me.
Ramen. Same with what you believe and why. I think the why, people are so easy to say what. It's that why that gets you thinking. And all right, I want to just say that we have also posted Aaron's Ra's channel up there. You should be checking Aaron Ra out, an up-and-coming YouTuber on the atheist sphere.
Yeah, growing channel.
You might have heard of him.
Exactly. And I want to do it one more time, because now we have caught up. Go check out the Phylogeny Explorer Facebook group. right down there. In fact, check it out. We linked it on Facebook.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to just send love to all of the one person out there on our Facebook group that is watching this. Though we have many people watching on the YouTubes and the Twitches, and I'm pretty sure even there's someone on Twitter. I swear to you, someone on Twitter. And sending so much love.
We have views from Twitter, yeah.
Well, that's the craziest thing. I'm making jokes, but then we go back and we check the analytics. There really is at least one person, not me and my mother, that is watching on the Facebook group and on Twitter and sharing and resharing. So I really am sending love to our whole audience out there that has been doing so, because it has helped us grow. Like Tim says, thanks for sharing, and thanks, Isaac, for sharing your story.
Thanks for the bridge.
And all right, with that, I want to thank you all for joining us on this episode of Isaac from Orthodox to Secularism, where this episode of the Skeptic and Ranting, we talked about Isaac's upbringing in an ultra-Orthodox Judaism family, because it said in ultra. I write this myself, and I'm trying in ultra-Orthodox Judaism on his journey to secular Judaism / atheism. And I do want to thank all of you out there, including my co-host, James W.
Ding! Oh, wait, he did make it.
That's right. Have you?
Peter,
Does Peter do his dings on the other streams, or does he save them for the glorious?
I think he's known for that on us. Yeah. I can't imagine our Raw listening to that ding.
Sending some, but you know what? I love you, Peter. We are sending. I like that this could be a place for atheists, skeptics, whoever to come on and be themselves. I'm sending love to James W. and our special guest host, Isaac, as well as our lovely panel tonight, the Sinister Porpoise and Beamsy, as well as all of the fantastic people in chat. What is up, Twitch? What is up, YouTube? And the mods who make this stream so great, and of course, viewers like you who make this channel even possible. If you enjoy the show, please don't forget to like, follow on Twitch, or subscribe on YouTube, and of course, share with that person that you're very specifically in a weekend debate on. It happens. It's epistemology, not ontology. I'm about to you upology. All right. Anyway, sending so much love, including when you subscribe, you get that bell icon. When hit to all will allow you to see our premieres, like all of our lovely. We're actually doing premieres now, James, more than once a month.
I know, you're busy. You've been clipping up a lot of videos.
Gizmo has been like, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And so we've been doing a whole bunch of clips. Some of those clips will become shorts. Eat my shorts. Now we're dating myself.
Femboys, plus boys into femboys. Procrastinators
right.
into what?
The one government program I think we can all get behind, James. I don't know why people even have it. Any other debate?
But do they programming sucks?
Kind of like the Cash for Clunkers.
Yes, they need programming socks.
I program sockless.
Oh my! Now we're getting to this. Is now you know we're truly in a late night podcast. Though we need socks that say just "Hello World." Those would definitely be programming socks. Yes, as well as, or hey, James. I think we just say this. I just
Are
have.
You hungry?
Are you looking for a snack? Like, people who listen to this, who don't listen to this normally, be like, what are we talking about? But there's one very specific person that must be seething in the closet right now. Just come out of the closet. Look, I get it. A silent, or whatever the lion is called, is like really cute. I wouldn't say cute. Let's say, because that's getting a little weird, but he's really bold. Whatever you think Jesus is, because it's supposed to be an analogy for Jesus. Thank you, C.S. Lewis. But now but now Tom Cruise is in there. Why Tom Cruise? And also
what happened to Tom Cruise
from a flower. Have you ever seen? You've never seen the? They spent an entire episode where he physically would not come out of the closet, and so the entire just every 10 minutes someone would come back to the closet and they'd be like, Tom Cruise, come on, come out of the closet. He'd be like, no, I'm not coming out of the closet.
Came out. I don't see why Tom Cruise can't.
Xenu, please free them, Xenu and Sunflower. But that's just regular Christianity. We're gonna lift. It's gonna make us manly and not want the D anymore. Oh my God, it makes us want the D more, James. Anyway,
it's addictive, it's a drug. It's like a drug.
Oh my God, can I just say this?
They're not
last
responsible
thing
for their
before we say, I'm on a community panel of atheists, and like every fortnight, as James would say, and we get these people, get these theists that try and convince us. But there's a gentleman who's been coming along every week, and they have extremely civil conversations. We'll call him Fred Family Man. And all of there may be a bisexual or someone gay on the panel that I'm missing, but I'm fairly sure I'm the only LGBTQ or feminine person on there. And that, which would normally not mean anything, because I come on there just talking about theology anyway. But like, I've just heard all he does, this gentleman, he comes on here and talks about bugs and parasites and how you got to get cleansed. And I've just heard many people in the closet like talk about this, like constantly, just you got to get a bug cleanse and you'll stop being gay. Also, if it works that way, why haven't they done this? I guess spoiler alert, but and so their conversations, they even, every time this guy comes on, they're like, oh my God, it's Fred Family Man. We love Fred Family Man. He never talks about religion. And I was just like, that's really cool. Hey, Fred Family Man, you ever have any thoughts about like being gay? And the first time he was like, why, it was lovely that no one ever asked me. And so it just gets crazy. The conversation, like if you can imagine a trip in Vegas, like it got crazier and crazier and crazier. And the peak of the statement, and to where everyone was freaking out, to my glee, because I imagine that the straight heterosexual men had never heard like the parasites and tied before. And his final statement was just like, listen, semen is addictive. And there has to be. And we're like, no, we're pretty sure it's you. I'm pretty. Listen, as a lovely bisexual myself, I'll never rag on anything that he's talking about. But I'm pretty sure, Fred Family Man, I get it. You just love family values so much. But I like pina coladas too. So check them out. And all right, I don't think we can top that. That was we weren't supposed. How did we get onto that? Oh, every time now, James. It's because we have been doing. Hey, leave a comment for a year. We've been roasting him silently, and he came onto our podcast like a day or two ago. It's why. Okay, now I remember.
It's fresh in our minds. Yeah.
And it was like, why did Jesus resurrect? And he sent in a super chat on like, why do gay men love the D? And it's like, every time, why does this person? Okay, different from Fred Family Man. Every anti-LGBT person, though.
Detransition stories. What else?
when you think about it, Jesus Christ was the first gay porn star.
Oh my!
He was nailed by many men and well hung.
Oh my! That sounds about right. And also, he liked washing a bunch of men's feet. I'm just putting that out there. No wife. Hung around with the guys. Oh, I'm sorry. He had many roommates. 12 roommates. There we go. Hey. All right, we're back on track.
Jesus liked to be bread and wined.
I know. He just liked to be wined and dined. Yo,
wine and bread.
I shared this with James today. It is the most blasphemous game ever, but it's fantastic. It's a Jesus game where you are Jesus, and it was like, make the bread, and you're like, make the water. But like, it has quests, and you listen to some of these quests, and they are so like, I can't believe if I'm gonna have enough wine for my party. Better hope that Jesus exists for that to happen. They're gonna make atheists. Is what I'm trying to say. Good job. I'm sorry. Isaac, final words. It really was your podcast, and you could hear me blab.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. It was a lot more enjoyable than I thought it might be. I was pretty scared coming in, doing this for the first time.
Little nervous, but it was fun. You got it.
You were amazing. Oh, and I want to thank you for coming on, and I want to invite you on for another.
Sure, I'm down for that. I had a really good time as well. I think everyone here was really great.
Thank you so very much, and you should be checking out, once again, a small up-and-coming James. We should call him YouTuber Aaron Ra, YouTuber Isaac, basically.
YouTuber Aaron Ra, yeah.
We can't help more inside roasting jokes. We have the theists can be divas sometimes, but we love them.
It would be too much for me to go by Isaac Ra, because even though that is the beginning of my actual last name, but
really,
it would be too much. Yeah, because my last name is Ruskin.
Ruskin.
Yeah,
that's kind of cool though.
Yeah, I definitely got called Ratskin when I was a kid, but in school. But
yo. I forget which comedian that said this. Doesn't matter how cool or who you are, children are, and they will find a way to twist anything into some sort of thing. So that is, let's take my word for it. That probably just meant that you had a cool toy, or you were saying something intelligent, and they felt, yeah.
I don't know, but maybe I'm related to James Raskin, the what's it called again? I think he's a representative somewhere.
Oh my!
Democrats. James Raskin. I don't know how you pronounce it in America.
You could be, and that means you need to come over here and run for. We used to say anyone can be. Not. I now believe it. Anyone can be. And you can also leave a super thanks, which is like a super chat, but after the live show is done or on premieres, there's a button for super thanks, and oftentimes if you say so or read something interesting, we'll read it back on the next episode. After the show, the Skeptic Ranting Discord server opens up for the after party, the link of which is below, along with our fantastic channel members, Twitch subscribers, and Patreons. The channel members, you can get our fantastic evolving badge system on that triggers young Earth creationists. How can something evolve? You can look at our badge system. Our YouTube subscribers who get extra flair, or our Twitch subscribers, because Twitch should give and hand over flair to YouTube. Let them borrow. And then Patreon, which is one of the best ways to help us out and get us even more support and unique perks by heading over to patreon.com/Amy Newman. I am Amy Newman, and we will see you all on the next episode of Skeptic Ball Z. Good night, everyone. Mwah.